I'm here.
Vice Mayor Best,
Present.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Here.
Councilman Zapata,
Here.
Councilman Petralanda.
Here.
Okay, please stand for invocation. Councilwoman Mitchell.
Lord, we thank you for the many privileges and honors and blessings that you've bestowed upon our beautiful community of Miami Springs. We ask for your guidance here at this meeting today that we may serve the best interest of our residents and our community. Thank you.
But we'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Okay, Chief, you have the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and guests. I'm privileged today to recognize an achievement in law enforcement, which is a retirement. After 29 years of service, I'd like to present Officer Charlene Navarro with her appreciation from the city. Officer Navarro started as a dispatcher with the City of Miami Springs Police Department. She worked her way up to police officer, worked in the community policing office, was a member of the bike squad, was an FTO, and an OIC. So after 29 years of service, very good service, she goes on to bigger and better things. So I personally want to thank you for those years of service, congratulate you on this achievement. And on a side note, when I first started working here, that I started talking to Charlene, found out that her mom, Mary, I'd known for many, many years, who worked at the City of Miami Police Department where I came from. She at one time worked in the records unit with my mother-in-law. And then when you would walk into the chief's office on the 4th floor, the first person you saw was Mary. So I sort of know Charlene through Mary. So Charlene, congratulations. Thank you very much. Also have this recognition from the city. 29 years of dedicated service to the City of Miami Springs, Officer Charlene Navarro. I don't know if you want to get up there with your family and get some pictures. Kind of heavy. You want to put up there?
That's so pretty.
Yeah. So you throw darts. You know that. It hurt.
I got you right now. Tammy.
I'd like to thank the City of Miami Springs for allowing me the pleasure of serving this community for 29 years. I actually grew up in Virginia Gardens, so we're all related. I've known the mayor since I was a kid. We were both children.
What?
In a lot of ways, we still are.
We still are. It's been a great ride. I met so many, I've had so many friends, and we're an extended family. I'd like to thank my family for supporting me all those years. My mother, Mary, and my sister, Karen, actually helped me raise my daughter, Taylor, because I was always working. And my Aunt Peggy is here. So I really appreciate that my family was always there for me. And my daughter, she's going to be graduating from the University, or Florida Gulf Coast University, with 2 degrees in criminal justice and psychology, and then she's been accepted to the University of Maryland, and she'll be doing forensic medicine.
Oh, fantastic.
Probably she'll graduate in December, so probably a little sometime after that.
Very nice.
So we kind of kept it in the family. So anyway, but I really appreciate it, and it's been great.
Well, what do you have plans to do in your
Oh.
retirement?
Well, actually, I left a little early. I've been at Home Depot for like 16 years, and I was trying to make a transition into the corporate world, doing like asset protection. So I was offered a position in Coconut Grove to run their program. So I had to leave 3 months early because I couldn't do both jobs.
There's
So-
rumors that you're doing a little bit of work in Virginia Gardens.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
That was where I started. That's where I'm going to end up. I'll be teaching the DARE program for 6th grade, and then I'll be doing some 1st grade teaching, and then just patrol once in a while.
Yeah, they were just saying they thought that they really got rid of you, but you're
No, I'm
patrolling
still
Virginia
here.
Garden.
I'm still here. I'm just over a little ways, but I can still go over there.
I
From what I
see.
understand.
All right.
Thank you very
Good luck
much.
to you.
Thank
Good
Charlene,
luck.
thanks for your
Good luck.
service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, on behalf of the Miami Springs Police Department, for your years of service, Charlene would like to present you with your retirement badge and also a gift card as a gift.
Also, for the recognitions of Officers of the Month for the month of July 2017, I'd like to call Lieutenant Frank Perez, who will be reading the nomination letter.
Good evening, everyone. At approximately 12:12 p.m. on July 19th, 2017, Officers George Pacheco and Albert Vargas were dispatched to the Comfort Suites Hotel in reference to a disturbance in a hotel room. During the following 20 minutes, Sergeant Matthew Castillo, Detective Jason Hall, and Officer Justin Borston arrived as additional backup. As a result of a detailed investigation by Officer Pacheco, it was quickly determined that several narcotics violations had been committed. Ultimately, one male was arrested for multiple narcotics violations, and one female was arrested in reference to a traffic warrant. Community Policing Officer Janice Simon also responded to assist with interviews and searching the female prisoner. By this time, Detective Hall had also determined that the male prisoner and all of the females on scene were part of a prostitution operation, and that there was some indication of possible human trafficking. The remaining females on scene were separated and interviewed further. It was at this time that Detective Robert Barrios responded to assist in the interviews. Subsequently, an additional female subject was identified on scene. All three subjects and the victim were transported to the Miami Springs Police Station for further investigation. Detective Hall and Officer Borston re-interviewed the victim and all three subjects and continued to expand the investigation. During this time, Officers Michael Garcia and Denise Martinez also assisted with certain aspects of the follow-up investigation. It was eventually determined that the male subject that was in custody for narcotics violations and the second female subject had both committed human trafficking violations in connection to a long-running prostitution operation. As a direct result of the two concurrent investigations, the first female subject was arrested for a traffic warrant. The second female subject was charged with human trafficking and prostitution-related offenses. The male subject was charged with numerous felony and misdemeanor narcotics violations, as well as human trafficking and prostitution-related offenses. 84 baggies containing crack cocaine, 4 grams of heroin, 5 grams of powder cocaine, 14 grams of marijuana, and narcotics distribution paraphernalia were seized as evidence. All of the listed officers provided vital assistance in numerous aspects of the investigations. The teamwork and professionalism exhibited by these officers were an integral part of the end results. I would like to take this opportunity to commend Detective Hall and Officer Pacheco for their overwhelmingly professional performance during every facet of the investigation and arrest.
Well done, sir.
Introduce them individually so they could tell who's who.
I'm sorry. This is Officer Pacheco, and this is Detective Jason Hall.
I mean, we know, but the audience should know who's who.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, Bill, right? He already left.
You guys have anything to say? You want to say anything? You have anything to congratulate people live with you or anything like that?
Congratulations.
Oh, okay. That's good.
I want to say thank you to my family, my father, my mom for being here, my wife, my daughter, there in the row. I also want to say a big thank you to the shift who worked with us that day. Albert, Sergeant Castillo, and all the other guys who aren't here today. Lieutenant, thank you very much. You know, it was a team effort. It wasn't just us. It was a team
Gentlemen, let me ask you a question, if you don't mind, and
We should have a
congratulations on the
microphone on,
honor
but-
that you were just bestowed. What led you to kind of think that something like that was going on over there?
Well, lucky for us is we got a call from the hotel manager.
It was from the hotel?
Yes, sir. The hotel actually called. They're the ones who called us to go respond because they had a guest who overstayed and also they had a smell of smoke coming from the room. So
Enough,
the investigation led to
enough said.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Be safe. Be safe.
Thank you.
Okay, we have. Are y'all gonna stay, or is there any more for the police? Nothing. So if you want to leave, you can. You don't have to stay for the whole meeting. But
Look at
Thank
this.
you.
Half the police department just freaking
Here.
dashed.
Nice try, Chief.
come on, you want to say something?
Good evening. My name is Detective Dennis Delgado. I'm with the Miami-Dade Public Corruption Unit within Miami-Dade County.
You're not after any of us here, are you?
No.
Okay.
We're basically here because we've been tasked to go ahead and just introduce ourselves to us. I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago when the mayor took over, he kind of, it was downsized our unit.
Right.
We want to let small municipalities know in the cities that we're still around and that if you have anything that you need us to look into, we're here for you guys, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to leave a stack of business cards.
Sure.
So-
Give them to the clerk there, and she'll get them to us.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hi, Mike.
Okay, we're going on to the GFOA Certification of Achievement of Excellence. Is anybody here to present that?
You can't have you reading it, though.
Well, Mayor, you're going to need to present it.
No. Do I present that to you?
Yes. You need to. I mean, he can't present it to himself.
Hey, Bill, you gotta read that for him.
What happened, William?
See, this is backwards.
You ready?
I'm ready, man. You?
Born ready.
I'm driving.
See, they get at me, and there's nothing there for me to present.
We need a license.
After.
We need to get
Your name?
license then.
I hear you.
Your name?
You want my license?
Oh, Moira Ramos,
What's your position?
comptroller.
Who is?
Controller of what?
And
you?
Mercy Valero.
And your position?
I am an accounting clerk.
Okay, and you?
Janelkis Fuentes, accounts payable.
Accounts payable? Okay. These people are the team for our finance for this award. The award that I'm supposed to present, which I don't have in my hand.
It's gotta be there, Bill.
Here, this.
Excuse me?
There we go.
No, they want to get it. There it is.
We seem to get this award a lot. It's a certification of treatment of excellence in finance reporting, presented to Miami Springs, Florida, for their comprehensive annual finance report for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2016. It looks like it's signed by Christopher P. Morel. Congratulations to all of you.
Do you?
William, what's up?
This award is representative of the efforts of the finance department and these ladies, and we have another two that couldn't make it today. But you know, you're only as good as the people you have working for you, and that's the group that I have working for me in finance. They have many years of experience. I think you're the newest one, but I know more. Has got over 30 years in the city. Mercy, you've been here. I don't know, right. But they're deserving of this award, so we're going to share this with all of them. Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to say to the community, this is a really big deal that they got this award and this recognition. So I think we should be really, really proud of our finance staff.
To just add to what Councilwoman Mitchell just said, this is typical. This is not something that just happens once in a while. William Alonso has gotten this award, I think, forever. If you walk out of Chambers and go down the hall here, and then no, it's downstairs, aren't they?
Downstairs where the elevator.
Downstairs. It goes half the hallway of every year that he has gotten this. And to his credit, what he does is continue to bring people and groom them, and this is amazing. And congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is anybody here from the Lions Club? We're going to go a little out of order. Your name?
Antonio Matos.
Antonio, this is a certification recommendation presented to Miami Springs Lions Club at 301 Swallow Drive for this is designated for Yard of the Month for August 2017. And, you know, if you ever go to the Lions Club and see all of the things that they've been doing over there and maybe want to try to be a club member, because we're always looking for club members, but they're really doing a great job over there beautifying that property, and we appreciate it, and this is appreciation of that. You want to say anything?
Yeah, I would like to thank the city for this. The Lions Club really appreciates it, but the members all chipped in and painted the place and laying sod and doing a lot of work the last few months. And Chairperson Nancy Voy is she's amazing to run this. But we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Tony, good job.
All right, now we have the presentation. Oh, that was me. Okay, this is for Mario Pie,
Yeah,
Miami
this is
Spring Art Festival.
this is a memo from Anna Hume, our professional services specialist. She's here tonight. Staff has been contacted by Mr. Mario R.P., president of Unlimited Sales Group, requesting holding an arts festival in Miami Springs on Saturday, March 10th and 11th, 2018. Mr. P. is here tonight with a PowerPoint presentation of his proposal, which would require council approval due to the closing of Westwood Drive from the Circle area to Park Street. The event would not close down the Circle. Mr. P. has held similar events in Coral Gables and other cities, and he's here tonight to present you with his proposal for the event and to answer any questions you may have.
Good evening. A little bit about myself, first of all. My name is Mario Pie. I'm president of Unlimited Sales Group, Miami Events and Festivals.com. We currently produce 12 events, mostly in South Florida. Been doing this for 34 years. And presently on the art side, we produce the Coral Gables Festival of the Arts, which takes place January 27th and 28th in downtown Coral Gables on Alhambra. And we also produce Art Miami, which is down in the Falls. We wanted to bring an art festival to this area because, well, for one thing, you don't have one, but for another reason, there is a lot going on in the art community in and around you that you may or may not be aware of. So the festival itself is a 2-day event starting on, ideally the dates that we're looking for is March 11th and 12th, which is Saturday, Sunday. Westward Drive would be closed from Curtis to about here, which is about 2 blocks. The festival would be a juried art festival, meaning that not just any artist is going to be able to participate. We will receive applications from artists from around the country. Once they're approved by a panel of 4 to 5 jurors, then we invite them. They decide if they want to accept. So there's a process that goes through. This is not going to be the intent is not to make this a flea market art festival in any way, shape, or form. So we're looking year one probably in the neighborhood of about 50 to 75 artists. Besides the art area, there will be a culinary area. There will be an area for kids. We are also looking at possibly reaching out to some of the businesses and working with them. One of the other events that we produce is food and wine festivals. And we were thinking that it might be a good mix to bring in some of the restaurants and some of the bars and whatnot in this area to do a small VIP area alongside with the art festival. I'm going to kind of go through this very quickly, and if I go too fast, just stop me. Admission will be free, and there will also be special consideration to all residents from Miami Springs, and I'll get into how that's going to work in a moment. There will be a small music area, but when we talk about music, we're not talking, large bands. We're talking more about someone playing jazz. Perhaps I have a gentleman that comes down from Orlando. It's tremendous. He's a one-man show, but he plays calypso drums. It's more of background music than it is so much a musical event. It's an art event, and the artists have over the years taught me this lesson very, very well. They want to be able to talk. They want to be able to work their art. These are artists who do a cycle around the country. They might do 20, 30, 40 events a year. So we want to make sure that they are happy, because if they're happy, then the quality of art will grow. It's very difficult at the beginning to get the type of quality of art that we want. And so that's part of the reason why we want to make sure to first take care of these guys. Also, there'll be a section, which is not in my presentation, but there will be a section for up-and-coming artists. There's two types of up-and-coming artists. One is the ones that we want to work with the local schools and get the kids involved from elementary all the way to high school. The other up-and-coming artists is the ones you hear about later, the ones who are right now starving, but who are very, very talented artists. So we want to give those guys a format and a place to be able to present themselves also within the art festival. Question?
No.
Okay. We'll also do an awards program for the various artists. Again, another reason why we'll bring them in. The awards will be both cash as well as some other benefits to the artist. We're trying to pull up all the stops to bring down the best possible artists that we can. New events is very difficult to bring very good quality art, but we're going to start out small. We're going to be very conservative. We think, like I said earlier, 75 is a pretty realistic and safe number for the artists to be able to be encouraged to come down. Now, as far as the residents, there'll be two incentives or bonuses, whatever word you want to call for the residents. First of all, anything that a resident buys within the festival, they'll receive a 20% discount. Be that for water, food, drink, art, whatever it is. We'll set up a system whereby they'll have a wristband, and they'll show their ID. Once you have your wristband, that tells you that you're a Miami Springs resident, and they'll receive that additional consideration. I grew up in South Florida, and Miami Springs was always this, I'm sure you guys have heard this 100,000 times, this little oasis I knew very little about. As I've gotten to know it more and more, I've realized you guys it's a very special community, and we see that for what we can see from the outside. And so we feel that a little bit of responsibility coming in here, making sure that first and foremost we take care of the residents, because we're going to inconvenience people. And hopefully we'll be able to work with the businesses in ways that they see that there's also a benefit for them. Our advertising and promotion campaign will not only be focused at the local community, but also bring people in from outside as well. So the 20%, the discount that I said would be on any purchases that they would do during the entire event, no matter what it would be for. Show hours will run 10 to 6 both days. We will set up the day of the event on Saturday, so we're going to try to do minimal disruption. Probably come in around midnight to mark the floor, but otherwise we'll start setting up about 4 a.m. Every time I think of that. About 4 a.m. A lot of these artists arrive around 4 a.m. because they're coming in from another city. So we'll be ready by 10 o'clock in the morning. Now, there's a fine art area, and everything is going to be segmented. There's fine art area. There will be a small craft area, which is, again, juried. There's an area, as I mentioned, for the kids zone. Culinary corner is where we hope to bring in the restaurants and bring in some of the better food. You won't see 17 people doing the same thing. It's one of each. We'll have 1 or 2, 3 food trucks at the most. We try to keep that very limited because our space is going to be pretty limited, especially this first year. there's a map here. I haven't fully, I don't know if you guys have received a copy, but I'll leave you guys a copy of it, of essentially the way we're thinking of laying it out. And I'll just kind of run it real quick. The main entrance will start off at Curtis. On the north side will be Fine Art. As you walk through to the next street, which is Cross Street, that'll more or less be the beginning of the craft area. After that will be music. Then on the other side of the street is where we'll put the culinary. Further towards the middle, heading back now in a circle, heading back towards the middle is the kids area. And then finally the VIP area on the south, I guess that would be southwest corner of the street. There also will be a charity component to the event. We will look for a local charity to partner with and donate to that charity and assist that charity. We are a for-profit business. I'm not going to say that we're not, but we do believe that you have to work with local charities. It's just a responsible thing to do. So we'll find a local charity and a 501c and reach out to them and hopefully be able to work with them. What capacity? Details to be discussed. I want to talk a little bit about the kids zone and what we plan on doing with the kids. I kind of touched on it very quickly. The kids area is going to be not just entertainment. It's really about education and it's about art. So we hope to get with the elementary, with the junior high, and with the high school, and create contests within the school and give these guys some exposure. There's be obviously no charge for them, and we want to try to give them as much exposure as possible to encourage them, hopefully, to follow their artistic dreams if they have any. The culinary program, food will be roughly between $5 and $15. It'll be on an a la carte basis. Nothing really all that exciting to say about that, except for we will first and foremost reach out to the local restaurants to get them involved. We always will do that, and then we'll backfill within that. So to the VIP area. VIP area at this moment is a $99 ticket. It's an all-inclusive ticket, so between 2 to 6 o'clock for those 4 hours, it'll be all-inclusive. All-inclusive food, beer, wine, and spirits, and music. And we'll limit it to roughly 200 to 250 people maximum. The way we've got it set up right now, it'll be just a 1 day on Saturday. So again, minimal, so there hopefully will be minimal disruption. And once again, we'll reach out to local restaurants. And finally, the booth spaces themselves. There'll be 2 pricing on the booth spaces. The $395 will be for your 10 by 10 artists, which is pretty much in line with what artists are paying for these days and crafters. And then on the food area, it'll be a charge of $495. We anticipate, especially since this year there'll be no, since there will not be a gate, not this year and probably never, we anticipate that it's probably going to take us 2, possibly 3 years before we're profitable. We know that, we get that, it's okay. Of course, the more support and the more help we get, the quicker we can get to critical mass. The more important thing for us is because of the other art festivals that we have, that we're going to have people trust us, and we're going to have to deliver to them a good product as far as the artists are concerned. And of course, the consumers that are here, you guys are, one thing I've noticed is you guys are very supportive of all your events here. So we get that, and we want to try to do it grow it slowly, but we're really looking at a 3 to 5 year plan before we'll really be able to relax and hopefully continue to grow it to a point where at the maximum we'll probably get up to about 250 to 300 artists 5 to 6 years from now.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
Questions?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you for your time.
I think,
Is it going to be something that we
Well,
will
what-
vote
what-
on down the road or now?
yeah, you're going to have to go ahead and I think that, first of all, should come on agenda item whenever staff feels it should come to us to vote on it, and then let them go ahead and get all their ducks in a row and everything, go on to do a final vote on it if we approve all of the situations
I
like
have
that.
one question, Mayor, if I may. The event is Saturday and Sunday. The street remains closed Saturday night?
Yes.
So the booths, and do you provide security yourself for that?
We will have security, plus obviously
You
we'll
provide the security?
We will have on-ground security, and we'll also work with local police.
Okay.
And then we'll really set it up however works best for you guys. If you guys have to reschedule for another meeting, for another vote, another time, I am really behind the clock on this, so I would only ask, I'm available, the sooner you are, the better. But we're really behind the clock because I've got to get to these artists before they set up their schedule for next year. So anything that could be done to move it along, I'd appreciate it.
Well,
Okay.
you're
I think-
basically, sir, Mr. Powell, you're looking for two things, right? You're looking for the closure of the street, and you're also looking for alcohol, beer and wine and spirits, you said, right?
Right, right, and that, the alcohol will come in partnership with the charity, yes.
And they will use our off-duty police and pay for any for that service and any public works related costs. We already discussed this. At this point, it's something that if council goes ahead and approves it, all he would need to do is do the event applications, provide all the insurances and all that, and we just go forward with the event.
When do we do it, Bill?
Can we vote on it tonight?
That's fine. I mean, I think you
No,
can. You
can we vote, can we make the motion to vote on the concept?
Yes,
Okay.
subject to approval by the administration.
Right. We'll
Through,
vote-
through the chair, motion to move.
And
Second
that's for both things. Again, it's the
Well,
closure
for
of the
both-
street.
Yes, Mr.
Yeah. And then
Okay.
subject-
And for that date.
And for
Right.
those 2 days,
For those
yes.
2 days.
Tom, we got first call the vote.
Wait, I have a couple of questions. You didn't want to ask questions earlier.
Well,
so-
I don't know if we can answer. Go ahead. Ask
All right.
the questions.
All right. So you're going to be responsible to bring the artists, obviously, and the people too. You're not expecting for Miami Springs to turn out, and that's going to be a profit. No. Okay. I read your presentation. I had a little concern. I want you to reach out to all the schools, not just Miami Springs Senior. We have charter schools. We have
In
private
this area.
schools within the school.
Yeah, I
within our
meant
city.
to say that, I just.
Right, but you didn't write that. That's what
No,
I was
I-
concerned.
correct, I didn't.
Okay, so if you can reach out to all the schools, would be
Sure.
great. Have you thought about doing it the same day that the River Festival is being conducted?
That
No.
No.
that attracts two very different audiences.
Exactly.
Just a question.
At one, no, it's, yeah, it's, we, Tom and I, as a matter of fact, at one point talked about us working together, and I kind of walked away from it because Riverfest is such an institution. You guys have been doing it for so long, and it is a different audience. There's no doubt about it. So
So you will not be asking us for any money down the line?
all I ask for is that costs are kept reasonable. You know, we're going to cover police. We're going to bring in our own cleaning crew.
Okay.
I'm thinking all the advertising will be done by us. Yeah, all I'm asking for is that it doesn't get out of control. The Gables just the other day quadrupled their prices to exhibit it out to do an event there. And I think just because the Gables wants to keep people away. And I said, guys, you're killing me over here.
Right.
They went from $400 to $1,600 overnight, which is insane. So no, the answer is we will not ask you guys for anything except for your support as far as if you have any press releases that go out, anything that's driven in that regard. But money, no, and we will use local personnel as much as possible.
Mayor, I have one more question. I know the vice mayor alluded to it, but I'm kind of in the dark as far as who's going to be selling the water, the beer, all that, because in your presentation it says the vendors are not going to be doing it.
Correct, we will. This is how we hope to break even or make a couple dollars. We'll work something with a charity where the charity is going to receive a portion of those proceeds. Perhaps work with a charity that they would have a separate booth to do whatever additionally. Let's say the charity had T-shirts and mugs or whatever, they would do that and get all the money from that. But the only place where we're going to make any kind of a profit on this or pay for our expense on this event will be on concession.
So you all be in charge of
So
it.
we'll take care of that.
That's
and
all I
we'll-
have, Mayor. Thank
and
you.
we'll insure ourselves for it. But it'll be something that'll be equitable.
I particularly like that you're going to reach out to our local restaurants for the culinary
Yes.
event. I think that's a great opportunity for them to get involved with something of this nature, and I think it's great that it's a
Yes.
separate month from River Cities, so it's another opportunity for us to showcase our city. I think it's a great opportunity.
Thank you.
Hopefully it'll work
Thank
out.
All right. This is for the concept and to allow them to continue going and then we'll come back to us to finalize it. I got a first and a second.
You do, sir.
Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapata.
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda.
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
Yes. I have one announcement. We are tabling 9A tonight. We're not ready for what we wanted to do with the presentation, and it'll be on the next council meeting. What's the next meeting?
Okay.
The 20, what's the next meeting?
28th.
28th.
28th, it'll definitely be on the 28th meeting. So anybody, I see some people signed up to speak. We're gonna table it until the next meeting.
They can still speak, though.
But the item's there, but they can still come up and speak.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
There's
Mr.
no
Pye.
discussion right now. All right, we have nobody to speak on open forum. We go to, yes. You have on the agenda item, I'm sorry, if you want to speak, you're allowed to, but you have on the agenda item.
Diane, it's
If you
probably
don't wanna
better if you
stay-
speak now, so in case
Listen,
it runs
wait.
late.
You could come up, but I'm just saying, that's why I didn't call you. That's okay. I was not gonna hire from speaking.
No, I know.
Let me,
Sorry.
Good evening, all. My name is Diane Burkhart. I live at 480 South Royal Point Santa Boulevard. And I have a project that I've been working on since May 14th, 2012. I'll just read this because I
Take your time.
Can't do it ad lib.
Take your time.
I'm working on South Royal Point Santa Boulevard project between East Drive and Lejeune Road, which is a 4-lane road. So, I've been working towards the traffic calming and beautification of South Royal Point Santa Boulevard. My vision is reducing 4 lanes to 2, a bike path, pedestrian crossings, of which there are none now, with the school there, local nearby. There's no school crossing. And a median down Royal Poinciana Boulevard with Poinciana trees. What would be more appropriate and beautiful than having the street's namesake in full bloom, spreading its cooling shade in June. Reducing the speed limit from 35 to 30, as is already in effect on other main roads in Miami Springs, along with pedestrian crossings, of which there are none now, would be a great benefit to school children and residents. This project would go a long way to beautify and bring a sense of calm to the neglected eastern triangle of Miami Springs. It's in sadly in need of beautification. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, did anybody else sign up for open forum and sign the yellow sheet?
The county will not let us reduce.
9A, we are good.
anymore.
You're welcome to talk on it, but
They're
I'm
looking at
trying to get it,
expanding roads,
I'm
not
talked to Mr.
reducing
Milam, he couldn't make it here tonight.
But those are the Milams.
All right, I know who they are. What's with you people?
Is that you didn't
I mean,
know?
I know what, but I wanted to make sure that the presentation was up to the up to the snuff I wanted it to be, so I'm tabling it till next meeting. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. All right, we have approval of council minutes. We have 5A, June 19, 2017 workshop. 5B, June 26, 2017 regular meeting. 5C, July 27, 2017 special meeting.
Through the chair, motion to move 5A, B, and C.
A second.
Call a vote.
Vice Mayor Best,
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapata,
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda.
Yes.
Mayor Bay.
Yes. No, we have no reports from boards and commissions. We got a public hearing, 7A, second reading of an ordinance.
This is an ordinance of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, updating the city's 10-year water supply facilities work plan and adopting water supply plan-related amendments to the city's comprehensive plan, providing for transmittal, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Mayor and council, this is an ordinance for second reading, so it is a public hearing. Basically, this is the same ordinance that you saw a couple of months ago, which was transmitted to the state and several local agencies for their review and consideration. Scarlett Hammond from the Corradino Group is the city's consultant on this project. She is here and available to answer any questions that you may have. From what the state and local agencies have reviewed, they have no comments. The only agency that did have comments was Miami-Dade County, which we have responded to their comments within the ordinance as presented to you.
Okay.
So.
This is a public hearing. Would anybody wish to speak on this item? I open up to the public. All right, I close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion.
I have a question.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to move item 7A and 7B? Or
No,
would
we're
you just
just
do
doing
it?
The 7A.
Just
7A.
A, just A.
I need a second.
You got it, sir. Second.
All right, discussion.
Okay, I have a question for Ms.
Hammond.
On page 13, one of the new things that we're adding in the center paragraph, the last sentence, in the future, the city will participate with Miami-Dade County in the utilization of reclaimed, reused water when available.
Is that just saying that when the county starts using reclaimed, reused water, we'll consider participating, or can you elaborate on what that means?
It is, yes, it is. So you would consider participating as it becomes available through the county system as they're developing the system of reclaim and reuse water.
Is the county doing that now?
They are.
Are other municipalities doing that?
Right off the top of my head, not that I know of.
You don't know, you don't know.
I just don't know. Sorry.
Okay, but we're not right now. The city of Miami Springs
Right.
is not participating. Okay.
And then I have a question for our city attorneys. Thank you.
Okay.
That was on that.
Thank you.
On page 10, one of the additions that we've added, that last paragraph, it's the last sentence is, there are no areas anticipated to be annexed.
That sentence will be revised accordingly.
What?
It'll be revised to provide, the language that we'll include is, we'll delete that last sentence and it'll be replaced with the proposed annexation area will continue to be served by Miami-Dade Water and Sewer Department.
Okay. Thank
That'll
Councilwoman,
be
I
on the
brought
second reading.
that question up earlier today.
That would be the second reading. That'd be in the second reading.
This is second reading, Mayor.
Oh, just so.
So
we-
we'll, we can approve the ordinance with that replacement.
Okay, we're gonna approve the ordinance with the, that amendment.
Correct.
So the motion has to be changed?
That's fine.
Should we? We're fine?
Could you read again what you're planning to say?
So the last sentence on page 10 will be revised to delete the sentence that says, there are no areas anticipated to be annexed, and it will be replaced with the proposed annexation area. The city's proposed annexation area will continue to be served by Miami-Dade Water and Sewer Department.
Okay. Who made the motion?
Make a motion.
Well, I have the second, and I'll include that verbiage in my second.
And I would on my first.
Okay. Any other discussion? Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapata.
Yes.
Councilman Petralanda.
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
Yes. We go on to 7B, second reading of an ordinance.
This is an ordinance of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, amending Section 150-111, appeals from administrative decision and denial of request for variance of the city's Code of Ordinances, amending Section 150-113, review of zoning and planning board and board of adjustment decisions by the City Council, appeal procedures of board decisions of the city's Code of Ordinances, creating Section 150-114.5, notification of public hearings, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date. Mayor and council, this is again an ordinance for second reading. It is a public hearing. This is actually the third time that the council considers this ordinance. Between second and third reading, based on the council's discussion last time, we amended some of the provisions of the proposed ordinance. Mainly, one of the things is the term appellant has been defined to provide, as the council requested, that anyone within the city can appeal for non-residential applications, and anyone within residents within a 500-foot radius or within the same block of a residential application can appeal. The other provisions regarding notice were also revised as requested by council.
Open this up to the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, John Souter. I just have a quick thing. The language, as modified, specifically the end of 3B, 1B, 2, residential versus non-residential, strikes me as loose or a little slippery, and maybe it's not. Residential is something that's not defined in our zoning code. And I guess with 29 in our rearview mirror, 29 Palmetto in the rear view, my question is, since that was specifically residential property.
No.
It was commercial.
No.
Well,
Let
no.
him finish. Let him finish. No dissertation. Let him finish what he wants to say, and we'll go forward.
It at least had a residential component.
Yes.
Now, it was a commercial appeal based on the fee. My question is with the new language as shown here, would I have been able to file that appeal?
Well, through the chair, I think it's a question for the attorney.
This is public hearing, one-way communication. After public hearing closes, we can answer any of your comments.
Sure.
The language strikes me as loose, slippery. Leaves some room for interpretation, project by project. And that's it on this. Thank you all very much.
Anybody else wish to speak on this item? I close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion.
Through the chair, motion to move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? We want to answer that one question about the...
Yeah, for the
please.
discussion.
Sure, Mayor and Council. This pertains, the terms residential and commercial are following zoning districts and land use categories. And so in Miami Springs, anything that is B3 arterial, office, neighborhood business district, central business district, airport golf district, Northwest 36th Street district, and Abraham Track are all considered commercial. Irrespective of the fact that the project may have a residential component to it, all of those categories go to a commercial application of it. So it would be, whereas the other single-family, multifamily, townhouse district, even though we may not have too much of it, all apply to residential. So 29 Palmetto being the last property on that block of Central Business District would have been is a commercial property that would have an appeal by anybody in the city under this code.
Okay. Any other discussion? Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell.
No.
Councilwoman Zapata.
No.
Councilman Petrolanda.
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
Yes. We go on to 8, consent agenda. These are funded or budgeted.
Correct. Let me, instead of reading the resolution, I'll read you the actual memo, which carries a little more detailed information. 8A is a recommendation by the Police Department that council authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Royal Rent-A-Car Systems of Florida, utilizing Miami-Dade County's bid number 8809-0/19, vehicle rental services, in the amount of $17,088 for the monthly rental of 2 vehicles for a 12-month period, as these funds qualify for expenditures from the police LETF fund, as funds were in the fiscal year 16-17 budget pursuant to section 3111E5 of the city code. 8B, Recommendation by Public Works that council authorize the issuance and execution of a purchase order to Metro Express, Inc., utilizing Miami-Dade contract MCC 7360, Plan CICC 7360-0/08, RFQ number 20150201-R, which is attached, in an amount not to exceed $25,028.75 for the milling, paving, and striping work at South Royal Poinciana before the outgoing bridge on Hook Square, utilizing CITT funds, as funds were budgeted in the fiscal year 16-17 budget pursuant to Section 3111E5 of the City Code.
Okay, I entertain a motion.
Through the chair, motion to move the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilman Zapata.
Yes.
Councilman Petrolano.
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
Yes. We go to 9B. We have a-
9B,
we have
Mayor,
a presentation of the Quiet Zone Study presentation.
The prior council authorized the contracting of R.J. Bear and Company to perform a railroad quiet zone feasibility study for our city. This was done in response to numerous resident complaints about the train horns disrupting their peace and quiet in the area at all hours of the night. Attached in your packet is the final report. Representatives from R.J. Bear are here tonight to present the results of the study, as well as the associated costs of the quiet zone, and to respond to any questions council may have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Manager, staff. My name is Rafael de Rasosa. I'm with R.J. Bear and Company. With me tonight, Mr. Renato Alba. Where are you, Renato? Okay, right behind me. Okay, and we are pleased and honored to be here to present to you. I apologize for my hoarse voice, but hopefully I will be better tomorrow.
Well, we need you to be better today.
There you go.
Well, I try. That's the reason why I brought my backup. Okay. So if I get in trouble, Renato comes and pulls me out. Okay. The objective of this particular study is to address the concern of the resident of the city of Miami Springs regarding the train horn noise. We all know that they could be very annoying, especially at 3 o'clock in the morning. And also the purpose of the objective of this particular study is to determine the feasibility of establishing a railroad crossing quiet zone. And then conduct a study following the Federal Railroad Administration, FRA guidelines. It is important to mention that the sounding of train horn as they approach an intersection is very important for the sake of public safety for obvious reason, but we all know that at the same time it could be very, very annoying because of the noise they emit, especially late at night. So, what is a railroad quiet zone according to the federal regulation? Well, it's very simple. Let me read it to you. The United States Department of Transportation Railroad Administration, FRA, has established regulation, procedures, and guidelines known as the Locomotive Horn Rule. That's part of the federal record to address the train horn noise issue, which covers the development, review, approval, and implementation of quiet zones. The requirement that the federal government imposes on this particular quiet zone is, first of all, to enable a municipality or any governmental unit to establish a quiet zone. You need the following things. At the crossing, you need to have active warning devices. What are those? Well, the flashing light, the gates that come up and down, the constant warning time, the CWT, which is nothing more than the electronic apparatus that are placed on the track so that when the train is approaching, it triggers the mechanism to lower the gate and the light start flashing. It has to have a power out indicator so that if the event that the controller fails, it sends a message to the railroad company and they can fix it immediately. Or the municipality can have police enforcement there. And then, of course, a minimum length requirement, which basically states that from the railroad crossing, you draw a radius, and it should be a minimum of approximately half a mile. We have established, according to the federal guideline, we selected 7 railroad crossings within the city of Miami Springs, as well as Medley, Hialeah, and the unincorporated area. The DOT crossings go very quickly. It's on West 8th Avenue in Hialeah, south of the Hialeah Expressway. The pedestrian overpass located nearby the Metro Rail Transit Station on Okeechobee Road. The North Royal Point Siena, that's within your city limit, northwest of Crane Avenue. There's a private crossing located west of you in the Intermodal Auto Facility of FEC. Number 5 is located on Northwest 74th Street, west of 69th Avenue. Number 6 on 72nd Avenue, just south of 77th Street. And the last one, it's on 77th Street, just west of 72nd Avenue. The study process entailed the following. First of all, we perform an exhaustive field review of each one of those crossings that I mentioned. The purpose of the field review is to identify passive traffic control devices. Passive are just the sign, the crosswalk, some pavement marking, and so on and so forth. Identify train-activated warning devices, like I mentioned earlier. Those are the gates, the flashing lights. Took 1 million photographs of the railroad crossing. We performed traffic count, performed the analysis according to federal regulation, and formulate the recommendation that we're here to present to you tonight. The quiet zone feasibility analysis basically entailed the following step. We used the quiet zone calculator online. It's an excellent tool that it's a software of different formula that compute the required parameters that needed to perform the analysis. The input parameters include average annual daily traffic, the train volumes, how many trains per day, and so on, the 5-year crash history, among other items. Then you crank that into the software and you calculate what is called the individual and total risk. The individual is that number of each crossing, as well as the average of all 7. That number gives you an indication of how feasible or not is establishing a quiet zone there. That particular risk is compared to the nationwide significant risk factor. It's got to be equal or below that. And also there's another risk factor that is called the risk index with horns. If the analysis shows that that particular crossing is above the numerical value that you get through that analysis, is above those 2 index, then you shouldn't have a quiet zone there unless you institute what is called and implement what is called the SSM, the safety measures. Okay? The standard safety measures, as well as any other alternative measures that you would like to analyze and implement in that particular area. So that's basically a process. Very quickly, you use the data, average daily traffic, train volume, crash data, result of your interview. You input that into the Federal Railroad Administration calculating machine. You get a number and you compare that with the national nationwide average and the average with horns. Some example of standard safety measures, for example, are the 4-quadrant gate installation. And you have a picture in front of you. Basically, all the railroad crossings that we inventory in the city of Miami Springs, they do have the 2 gates. The 4 gates obviously offer that additional protection to avoid cars going around, like in my career I've seen many, many times happening. Then, of course, another measure among many others is what we call the mountable median with highway delineators, or lollipops, like we traffic engineers call. Just basically a rigid median, if you will, very narrow, with the delineator to avoid vehicles from going around. Then we performed the existing condition analysis. In other words, we looked at each of the 7 crossings, and given the measures, the items that they have there, we run the analysis and we say, well, if we leave those crossings the way they are now, if we don't do anything to them, can we establish a quiet zone? And the answer is no. Because if I may point out to you, I want to make sure I don't point this in the mayor's eye, but anyway, I can't see it. Well, if you look at the extreme right-hand side column that's called current risk index, you will see that all the numbers are way graded except one, that the national average and the national average with horn. You see the NSRT is 14,014.7, the RIW is 17.7, and if you see, look at those numbers. Your particular crossing at Northwest River Drive, Royal Poinciana, northwest of, forgotten the name of the road again, it's the highest one. So that particular has a pretty bad result. Okay, so what does it mean? That if we leave those crossings the way they are right now, the Federal Railroad Administration will not approve a quiet zone. So the next step in the analysis, we develop alter number 1. And on alter number 1 that you will see in the second column from left to right, the proposed standard safety measure that you see there, number 4. Below you will see that 4 means a 4-quadrant gate, the one that I just showed you a couple of minutes ago. So in that particular crossing, crossing number 1 on West 8th Avenue, under alter number 1, we'll be proposing a 4-quadrant gate. At your particular crossing within the city of Miami Springs, we will be proposing, if you look at the number 12, you go down below the table, number 12 means the mountable medians with reflective traffic channelization devices. That's just the second slide that I show you, okay? Now, what the good news is that with this particular alternative, the average risk of all the 7 crossings is below the national average and the one with horn. So that's good news. However, if you look at item number 3, the one on South River Drive, Royal Poinciana, the number is 16,433. So you are below the RW, but you are above the NSRT, which means that we went ahead and looked for another level of safety on that particular crossing, and that came to be alternate number 2. If you notice before, let me go back. On alternate number 1, look at crossing number 3. The proposed SSM is 12. See, that's the mountable median with a delineator. Now, on alternate number 2, on that same crossing, you see a number 4, which means a 4-quadrant. By placing the 4-quadrant gate, we are making that crossing a lot more safer. In fact, when you look at the number, it's 11,831, well below the national average and the one with horns. So frankly, personally, as an engineer, I like this alternate number 2 better. However, of course, as you are very well aware, there are other considerations.
Mayor, if I might, Is the point? I mean, obviously the point is to make things as safe as they possibly can be, considering fiscal constraints. But for purposes of actually achieving the quiet zone, do you need to obtain a corridor average that is under, or does each crossing have to be under?
No, the corridor average is sufficient.
Okay, so proposal number 1 would be sufficient for quiet zone, even if that one crossing is above the NSRT.
Right, but the reason why the answer to that question is yes. Right, Renato, correct me if I'm wrong, okay? The answer is yes. As long as the average is below, then you are okay. However, based upon my experience as a traffic and safety engineer, I need to go beyond that because I need to look after the interest of the city. And my professional judgment dictates that although having those delineators, you satisfy one thing, I need to go beyond that. Obviously, the decision is within the city. I can only present the facts and my professional opinion. The mountable delineators are normally a very good barrier. However, we know that every now and then there is a driver that will go over them. When you have the 4 quadrant, it's a lot more difficult. You actually have to ram the gate and break it, and that usually, based upon my 40 years of professional experience, they still can do it, but the chances are greatly improved when you have a 4 quadrant. So that's the reason we were obliged to present alter number 2. Obviously, the decision is yours. Now we come to the recommendation. Our recommendation is, subject to council approval, is install the proposed safety measure at the selected railroad crossing. We purposely don't want to say go with alter number 1 or alter number 2. Both are good. Both meet the criteria. We have met in the field with representatives from the Federal Railway Administration, and either alternative is fine with them. So, having said that, then we also recommend that we looked at all the intersections at a later date and make sure that the CWTs are working necessary. There's one crossing, the one on 77th Street in Medley, that doesn't have the CWT. And then, of course, we went beyond just the crossing, and we are recommending that additional signage and pavement markings be refurbished, because frankly, some of them are pretty old and turned very faded. So again, those are the recommendations. And now here comes the part that I'm sure is very closest to your heart. Alter number 1, the total cost will be slightly over $1 million. If you look at the red numbers, Miami Springs, remembers on alter number 1, we were only recommending the installation of a mountable median with the delineators. That cost is approximately $14,000. Remember, these are a planning level conceptual cost estimate, okay? If we go with alter number 2, Miami Springs goes from $14,000 to $500,000. It is a substantial increase, but when you look at our report, we do say that even though both alternates meet the objective and both alternates are satisfactory with FRA, however, alter number 2 provide that additional level of safety that I just got through explaining a little while ago, okay? The total cost of a conceptual alternative number 2, it's a little over $2 million. If you notice, there are 2 crossings in Hialeah, one in Miami Springs, one in the Miami on the unincorporated area, and 3 in Medley. So with that, we thank you, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
Could you show us the photo again of the mountable medians? Did you have that?
I'm sorry?
Did you have a photo of the mountable medians? Could you show that again?
Let me go back. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's the one.
So how does that work? It would be on our side of North Royal Poinciana.
It'd have to be on the other side.
And on the other side.
Right.
just kind of, just in between the two lanes.
That's correct.
Mayor, can I ask another technical question? Can that median be, I thought we had in previous conversations with Miami-Dade County, some places had gone, instead of with a mountable one, with an actual built-up 6-inch curb. Would that also work towards that?
We look into that. That is an excellent question, Councilor. We look into that, and the answer is that particular section of Royal Poinciana is very narrow. Yes, we could provide that. That would be ideal. But the problem is that you will have to widen the roadway.
Okay, so the cost will go up.
And you're talking about very, very expensive. And I wouldn't recommend that. My experience as a traffic engineer is that alternate that you have there, the mountable median provide a relatively good safety cushion. However, as I mentioned in my presentation, you do have people that every now and then it's very easy to run over those. They make one hell of a noise, pardon my language, but they could be mountable. Whereas going back to the Ford gate, it is a more formidable barrier. Still can be broken, but not as easy as the other one.
But the alternative one is in compliance from the city's liability perspective. We've satisfied the compliance for acceptable
Yes.
barricading
Yes.
of that. You're just saying that alternative 2, from a life safety standpoint, is less likely for someone to, either way, I mean, either alternative 1 or 2, if somebody still decides to try to cross the track, they're violating safety features that are
Right.
in place. But you're saying that the other one is a little more effective should they choose to violate that, right?
That's correct, Councilwoman.
But as far as liability for the city, we are in compliance with alternative 1.
Right. That particular alternative, as long as it's properly installed, properly delineated, if anybody violates that, in my professional opinion, of course, I'm not an attorney, but I don't think you'll be liable from a technical engineering point of view.
About how far back does that extend? How unsightly is it?
That one will have to be determined in final design, but normally
50 yards.
what you want to do is do it within what is normally considered the area of influence of an intersection. I would say a minimum of 300 feet.
There's no football field.
On both sides of the intersection.
Okay, all right, that,
Come to the microphone.
The minimum is 100 feet on both sides of the intersection.
Together? 50-50?
No, you need 100 on each side.
100 feet of
Yes.
of them.
Of the mountable median with delineators. Yes.
100 feet. The question to attorney, well, we're going here. If we go that route there, you'd have to get a hold of Medley to see if they pay on the other side?
It's actually not meddling.
Oh, it's not?
That's actually unincorporated
It's
area or
unincorporated.
annexable area.
Correct.
Okay, but right now, it's not ours, so
No.
we'd have to get in contact with Dade County.
County, yeah.
So that'd have to be, whereas if we put the four-way stop, I don't think we have to talk to anybody, part of the railroad.
I mean, technically, I have to double check to see where the city's boundary is on that area to see whether our city perimeter currently extends to the other side of the train tracks.
Okay.
Regardless, we would probably be coordinating with Miami-Dade County anyway, because some of these areas, I mean, for example, the train track that is in Medley is technically not in Medley. One of them is in Medley, but the other one is unincorporated Miami-Dade.
Okay.
Can you give us an idea as far as maintenance of those? You said they're flexible. How much maintenance is involved in that? I mean, are we constantly going to be having to go and replace them? Do they get pretty damaged? And what is the cost?
Excellent question. I don't have any maintenance figure, but it is negligible. But however, if depending upon the rate of violation on freeway on I-95, when you see the lollipops on some of the other state road, I used to work with the Florida Department of Transportation, it's almost a constant headache. In this particular case, the traffic volume there is about 12,000 vehicles per day. That's pretty hefty amount of traffic, okay? So I suspect that you may have a more than normal rate of violation. But frankly, replacing those delineators, it's not that expensive when you compare with some other maintenance activity. However, again, the four quadrant, I'm beginning to sound like a salesman. I'm sorry, but the four quadrant gate require less maintenance in the sense that they don't break them as often as they violate the lollipop. So it's just like everything in life. There's a trade-off.
As the requirement, as the requirement of the four gates, okay, the gates that we have there now, the two-gate system, the railroad takes care of them. We don't.
No, that's right.
Do we pay? We
No,
don't.
the railroad does it,
takes
yeah.
it. So why would it be any different if we go with the four gates? After we do the initial cost, does the railroad take care of them?
Actually, Mayor, there are interlocals between. Remember, the train tracks were here before most of the cities in Dade County, and so
airport
most
too.
cities have somewhere in archives a interlocal agreement whereby, in exchange for being able to have a crossing,
right,
there are obligations associated with paying for that. Sometimes, there are fees assessed to cities, fees assessed to the counties, and even right now, as Brightline makes its improvements along the corridor along 95, in order for improvements to be made, cities are taking the responsibility of maintaining those crossings.
Okay, so my thought of them taking care of that crossing, it would be our responsibility from here on out, or would it be negotiable?
It's probably negotiable, but like I said, I know that other cities along that corridor have engaged in conversations to develop quiet zones, and there are upfront costs and ongoing costs that the city that wants the quiet zone has to bear.
Okay.
Right, exactly.
Well, I can, through the chair, I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, living in that quadrant of the city, they're working on that trestle 3 days a week, if not more, as we speak. So I don't know what.
But in essence, doing this, making our railroad crossing a quiet zone, we still don't fix the problem unless we get the other seven, which means we have to get Dade County, Medley, and Hialeah in play to go ahead and participate in the program to make that whole situation quiet. Because the bottom line is, you hear the horn from 74th Street all the way through Medley to the back of the place. It's not just our stop. So to spend the money on the quiet zone for our particular crossing right now would be a little bit premature unless we can negotiate with the rest of the cities, in my opinion.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, the way I see it, there are different alternatives. For example, let me paint you a possible scenario. If the council approves this report tonight, then the next step will be to go to phase 2. Phase 2 will take care of the formal involvement process that the Federal Railroad Administration requires, which means formal review by DOT, formal review by the railroad company, the affected municipality, and the final formal review by FRA. During that particular process, for example, the other scenario, that's the law. That's what we need to do, okay? Now, what I would respectfully suggest to the council is as follows. Once you approve this study, my recommendation will be that we send the report to Florida DOT and again to FRA, and we send one to Medley, Hialeah, Miami-Dade County, and then, just tell them that we are proposing this quiet zone, which we believe are for the benefit of everybody. We send them the report, and we follow up with a meeting with them. Basically, we wait to see what comments they have. We set up the meeting, and frankly, it's up to the city, but then either at that meeting or subsequent meetings, the city will try to get an agreement from Medley and Hialeah that they will cooperate in those costs. Now, that will be one potential scenario. Now, let's say that scenario, they say, heck no, we won't do it. Then the other alternative is make a formal request to the Florida Department of Transportation and the Miami-Dade Metropolitan Planning Organization to solicit the funds to construct those railroad crossings. First, by DOT, they have a railroad crossing program, and obviously they have 1 million. I'm being facetious, of course, but they have a lot of railroad crossing all over Florida. But you can formally request them and says, hey, listen, we believe that this is a great benefit to the citizens not only of Miami Springs, but Medley, the unincorporated area, and Hialeah. So we would like to request the department to consider funding of this particular crossing. Simultaneously, at the same time, we make a request to the chairwoman of the Metropolitan Planning Organization to consider prioritizing this particular crossing in their 5 and 10-year program. Again, I just offer 3 alternatives. I would recommend trying the other municipality first. Formally requesting Florida DOT for the funding, but those formal requests can only be made after we go through the phase 2, which is the formal involvement process and so on and so forth. Now, we could go ahead and request funding subject to the final report being approved by DOT and the Federal Railroad Administration.
Through the chair, if I might ask you, what is the likelihood of that happening, and when has it ever happened before?
Around the nation,
No. In Dade County.
In Dade County,
Yeah.
I think we're breaking ground.
So do I.
Mr. Mayor, can I?
And believe me, I sort of hesitated before the city.
City manager, the city
I'm sorry.
attorney wants to say something.
So the city manager, is it already assistant city manager? Can I say that or not yet? Okay.
Yeah.
Assistant city manager and I had a meeting that was coordinated by our state representative Brian Avila and the folks at FDOT to discuss the possibility of funding for this. The dedicated fund that is discussed, they said, for at least this fiscal year and going forward, has projects already identified for it. However, our state representative said that he would, especially considering the fact that Brian Avila's district includes parts of Hialeah, he'd be very interested to see about obtaining an appropriation for this project. Additionally, Mayor Martell in Medley sits on the TPO. As appointed member by Governor Rick Scott. So he's got the potential of influencing the fact that we might get on that 5-year implementation plan. I mean, ultimately, to his credit, I think it is important to get the buy-in from the city, from the other cities that are participating, but money is a threshold issue. Fortunately, Representative Avila has made this a significant priority for himself and for all of us. And so I think that we almost have to parallel both issues, that if we go into these meetings without any identifiable funds, it may not produce a very successful meeting. So I think that if I can just amend his recommendation a little bit, which is direct staff at this point to continue coordinating with our state representative and the TPO, come up with some potential funding options, and then broach the cities with them, we may end up having the ability to come back to council with perhaps an interlocal agreement where the cities have a preliminary buy-in subject to financing the project, and that way we can move forward with reaching out to the state and the federal government. Because otherwise, my concern about transmitting this study is that Miami Springs is, when you talk about, yes, we have a larger population than Medley, but certainly not than Hialeah. And if all the cities don't participate, or they say from the beginning no, the likelihood of this getting any real traction at the TPO or at the state or at the federal level is going to be difficult. So just sort of giving us some preliminary direction to move forward on researching those fronts.
Okay, I have no problem with that. Do you?
No, I don't either.
Okay.
I have one question, Counselor. In order to move forward, do you need us to decide that we prefer alternative 1 or 2, or does it matter?
I mean, I think both options are
'Cause
on the
there-
table. It's just a matter of funding. If we're able to get some monies, all the monies, for which one, I think that's going to make a determinant. I mean, as you can see from one of them, the city's participation is a limited amount of money. The other one, it's significant. I mean, and so for the city itself, at some point down the line, you will have to make the determination whether with a $13,000 option or the $500,000 option. But at this point, I think it's a matter of we have two options that are both viable and meet it. And this gives us a couple scenarios with which we can now go to the cities and to funding sources.
One last thing, and I don't know if we know this offhand, but I'm trying to imagine 100 feet back, 100 feet east from the railroad crossing. Do you know if that would limit the ability of people coming off Crane to make a left?
It's possible. It's possible.
It's possible.
It's
Possible,
possible. I thought,
okay.
you know,
Could be right
I
there.
thought that too. It's possible, but I guess it could also be adapted to allow that turn, you know, but yeah, I would say 100 feet. It'd be pretty close. Be pretty close. to the all the way
Councilwoman,
down.
I don't see that as a concern. There are different ways. One of them, the mayor mentioned having a gap. So,
Yeah.
frankly, I
Possible
don't see that
too,
as a
okay.
concern. Yeah.
I think. Now, my last question before we go ahead, I think we're going to go along with the city attorney's proposal there. My last question is this option here and the 4-gate option. That means that the railroad, the train will not blow their horn.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, the train, what?
The 100-foot option of these blockers, or the 4
Quadrant.
gates,
Quadrant.
4 gates. That means that when the train's going to go through there, they won't blow their horn.
That's correct.
That's what it says.
At any time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, I want that clear because I don't want you. It's clear that then then that means if we get all 7 spots, they'll go through here clear without
However,
horn. However, what?
I hate to burst your bubble, but on the federal regulation, the answer is yes. But in the federal regulation, and I will defer to Mr. Attorney, there is a proviso, unless they changed it lately, that the train conductor, engineer, still deserves the right
Uh-huh.
that
blow the
if
horn.
he or she consider that there is an emergency, he or she can still blow the horn.
So in the off chance that, for example, someone does go around the bollards there, the delineators, and
Right.
the train conductor can still
I
sign the
understand.
warning blast.
I understand
Right,
because
right.
you know I work at a place where there's quiet zones, but they still blow their horn through 'em. So I mean I don't if you know it's a funny thing. This is federal. Federal can do whatever they want to do. We can put all this work into it, and you know they blow their horn down the line anyway. You know, but I think that's just my personal statement. But we're going to go ahead and a motion to pursue as the city attorney has suggested before we make any final decision.
Motion for that to proceed.
Second.
Second. We have any other discussion? Call a vote.
Hi.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapata?
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda?
Yes.
Mayor Payne?
Yes, your voice got better as you kept going.
Thank you.
I
Well,
think you lubricated it and it
you
got
know,
going.
My wife is delighted because I'm keeping very quiet.
Very
That's
quiet,
what-
or is it the voice?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. All right, downtown park, quiet zone. Okay,
10A?
10A. Let me look at my list here. Okay, 10A, a resolution.
Yeah, this is a recommendation by finance that council waive the competitive bid process and approve an expenditure to Alberni Caballero and Furman LLP in an amount not to exceed $35,000 for external auditing services to perform the fiscal year 2017 audit as funds were budgeted in the fiscal year 17-18 budget pursuant to section 3111 E6G of the city code. The administration is requesting the council's approval to exercise a 1-year extension of the existing contract with Alberni Caballero and Furman LLP, which was approved by council in April 2013. This option will cover the audit for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2017, and the firm has agreed to charge the same fee as for fiscal year 17 as was charged last year. This will be the final year for this firm, and the city will be issuing an RFP in fiscal year 17-18 for these auditing service going forward in the future.
Okay.
Motion to move item, what is it, 8?
10A.
10A, I'm sorry, 10A.
I got a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Call a vote, please.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapata.
Yes.
Councilman Petralano.
Yes.
Mayor Ben.
Yes, we go on to 10B, a resolution.
Yes, staff is requesting approval of the attached resolution authorizing the execution of the LAP agreement for a bicycle pedestrian mobility study and master plan as attached. The estimated total cost for the bicycle and pedestrian mobility study and master plan is approximately $149,500, of which $119,600 will come from the State of Florida Department of Transportation LAP agreement, which results in a local fund match of $29,900 as part of the city's obligation as the local match. The execution of the attached LAP agreement is in effect committing the city to complete the mobility study and master plan. Since we have until September 30th, 2019, per the LAP agreement to complete the study, the city's match of $29,900 will be budgeted for in the fiscal year 18-19 budget. And Tammy's here. This is a grant that our former grants writer, Carol Foster, had worked on. And Tammy can explain more or less what this study will involve.
Basically, this is a study that will have connectivity between pedestrian and bicycle use, connecting all of the paths, not only within the city of Miami Springs, but to other surrounding areas as well.
Do we get anything physically out of this?
I'm sorry?
We get any physically out of this? What is this study? Do we get anything?
What's it do?
What will the residents see from this study?
Basically the connectivity to other, to surrounding metro rail uses, to other buses. I mean, it's just the connectivity between us in our municipality as well as connecting to other surrounding areas.
This is a phase one, and what they'll do is they'll present you with projects and costs that you need to do to provide total connectivity. And the thinking is that this is a first step, and then FDOT will give us future grants like they did for Westward to do some of these connectivity projects.
Where does this money come from?
The 29.9? Our match or the whole?
No, the
match.
Not the match. Not the.
FDOT is giving us $119,600, and we would have to match $29,900.
We can't get FDOT to give us that money for the railroad crossing?
No.
Something that we can use?
Tammy, I read that we don't need to allocate all the money now, right? We have the next budget.
We will work on it for 18-19 budget year.
Okay.
I'm still confused as to what the connectivity is with this. We've got the bike path within Miami Springs.
Correct.
So this is going to be connectivity with outside the springs or additional connectivity within Miami Springs?
It'll additional connectivity within Miami Springs. Basically, the study will tell us where we're missing connectivity within Miami Springs and then where we're missing anything outside the perimeters of Miami Springs.
And so the areas that they identify, the potential for future connectivity.
Correct.
The reason to have this study is that then
get it
potentially we'll
funded.
be able to get grants to continue that.
Future funding for construction
Okay.
of those projects.
Would
yes.
the possibility of, say, a pedestrian footbridge at grade level, which I know I've talked with William and you about along the FEC track to Okeechobee, that might be something?
That might be something
that could fall
included
into
in this
this?
study,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
All right, great.
Well, I entertain a motion. Everybody's so excited about this item. I'm waiting here.
Well, motion to approve 10B.
Second.
We got first and second. Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapata.
Yes.
Councilman Petralano.
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
No. We go on to first reading of an ordinance, 10C.
Yes, Mayor and Council, you have an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Miami Springs amending Article 8 of the Code of Ordinances, changing its title, further amending sections therein, and creating sections to provide for definitions of Code Compliance Board and terms, role of the City Attorney, designation and authority of the Code Inspector, enforcement procedures, conduct of hearing, powers of the Board, administrative fines, costs, liens, additional remedies, appeals, and notices, providing for repealer, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the Code, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date. Mayor and Council, in our review of certainly not only boards but policies and procedures, we noticed that there were some deficiencies in the code enforcement board and some of those procedures. First and foremost, it didn't designate clearly enough who the city attorney represented. I know that sounds kind of funny, but the city attorney cannot simultaneously represent the city, who is prosecuting a code enforcement case, and be the attorney for the code enforcement board. And so we were being consulted throughout the code enforcement process as the attorneys for the city, and then being asked to sit up on the board and give advice and counsel to the code enforcement board. Additionally, we noticed that properties would routinely accrue fines. Let's just throw out a number, $10,000, and then a property would come into compliance, and the board would mitigate that to, let's just say, $1,000. Well, once a code enforcement fine is confirmed by the board, it becomes a property interest. It becomes a lien on the property, and without an express delegation from the city council to the board, only the city council can mitigate that lien or get rid of it altogether. And yet this is a practice that we were doing over time, and obviously no one's complaining about having their fines mitigated, but there were a number of issues that we wanted to bring into compliance. We also wanted to tighten up the procedures for when an order is issued and rendered and put into public, into the file, because that actually impacts when somebody's appellate rights continue or trigger at a circuit court level. So what we did was, and I know that this is also happening at the time that we're looking at the boards in general, this is obviously a board that we need. The city can have especially with a population of our size, can either have a 7-member board or it can have a magistrate. And there's nothing wrong with continuing with that process. But bottom line is we did a top to bottom updating of this that now makes sure that when we represent the city, we're assisting in the prosecution. I hate to use that word, but that's exactly what they're doing of a code enforcement citation. We did soften up some of the terms. More and more cities have gone away from a code enforcement board to a code compliance board, because ultimately it's not to be punitive, but to get people to comply, residents to comply with the code. And so this is a first reading. I'm happy to take any feedback and revise it for second reading.
Through the chair, I like the work you've done on this. I've read it thoroughly, and you got a motion, Mayor.
Get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilman Zapata.
Yes.
Councilman Quintana.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes. We go to discussion.
10D.
10D, sir.
Oh, we're on D? I'm kind of getting excited about Denny. First reading of an ordinance.
Yes, Mayor and Council, again, you have a first reading of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Miami Springs, Florida, amending Chapter 99, noise, by updating definitions and enforcement standards, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for implementation and for an effective date. Mayor and Council, obviously, as has come before you, the issue of noise has been an ongoing issue in some parts of the city more than others. In our conversations with staff, and that includes police, code enforcement, the city manager, the way that the code is currently written, first of all, the code is antiquated, and there is quite a bit of subjectivity in the code, because you have these definitions that are specific to persons. Basically, the way that you perceive sound or perceive noise could be more sensitive than the way that I can. And what ends up happening is you end up having, you can have sometimes conflicts between reports from different neighbors, from the producer of the sound to the receiver of the sound, between businesses, as we've been having, especially in the neighborhood business district. And so what we did was we took a stab at revising the code to eliminate some of that subjectivity and replace it with an objective standard, and that is a decibel reading. We also had a code that was a little bit disjointed, and what we tried to do is provide a new set of definitions, put everybody on the same page as what the rules of engagement are. Certainly, there are general provisions as to what a violation and what is noise and what is creating noise. But we crystallize that by taking some of the provisions that we've had in existence in our code, but also specifically in section 99 new 03 B, we have noise exceeding permitted decibel readings. And what we did was take a look at a variety of sound charts that specify the sounds of normal things in the city, in any city. So you have, ambient noise is this, et cetera, et cetera. Then we juxtapose that versus what ambient noise is in Miami Springs based on readings that were done by the police department. And let's not kid ourselves, as a city that is situated, between a busy road like Okeechobee, trains, and the airport, our ambient noise is louder than, say, Weston, or even Miami Lakes for that matter. And so what we did was we established, we took that into consideration and took into account, like I said, other things like air conditioners, lawnmower equipment, a dump truck, ambient, just normal conversation, and came up with a prohibition on sounds within certain times. We also had a code that said that basically quiet time, if you will, was between a certain, we'll say no later than 11 o'clock, but it really gave the manager this flexibility of an hour period to be somewhat arbitrary in whether or not somebody got the ability to play till 11 o'clock. So we considering how intertwined our commercial areas are with most of our residential, there is one set of hours that it's being proposed. If you all want to change it, of course you can. That is between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. are quiet time. Anything extended beyond 11 p.m. need a special permit, and for that you're thinking about your river cities or something that might generate that kind of noise. Sorry not to call you out, Tom. But otherwise, the established decibel readings we're saying is for residential neighborhoods or commercial neighborhoods abutting a residential neighborhood. And again, these terms, similar to the conversation before, follow our land use and zoning districts. So that commercial zoning districts that would be applicable to this are obviously neighborhood business district, central business district, Gulf, North 36th Street. Ones that aren't, as of right now, Abraham Track. And obviously their ambient noise, considering that they're in the flight path, is going to be much higher than ours anyway. And then certainly this wouldn't include the annexation area if and when, hopefully more when than if, we obtain that. The decibels are for daytime are at 90, and in the evening at 65. There are a number of things that we included in there, including mitigation practices. But if you go through the prohibited acts generally, you'll see some of the language that we had in the code already, somewhat tightened up to make sure the definitions are all uniform. We also tightened up a little bit what construction work means in Miami Springs. There were two categories, one that talked about repair work, and the other one talked about, but bottom line is that there's this now category about doing work in the city of any kind, and that there are hours between 8 p.m. and 7 a.m. that you cannot do the work. Now, what we did provide was some flexibility for the manager to permit sound, let's just say construction noise, festival noise, to occur on special circumstances. And we may have a project along 36th Street. As you know, 36th Street is starting to be interesting towards developers now. Then they may want to pour a parking garage overnight in order to stay in, or a building in order to stay on track for their construction schedule. And that's going to produce some noise. Well, they can come to the manager, explain their situation and how they plan on mitigating their sound as they make that several hour pour of concrete. But otherwise, the point was basically to address violations and only to modify the permit process to have the same definitions. So if you'll see Article 2 of the proposed ordinance has very minor revisions, and the main parts of the revision are in Article 1. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I don't have any questions. I just hope it helps solve some of the problems. I mean, it's a selective situation problem, but I hope, with this being implemented, maybe you have at least you have a standard, and maybe it'll help out in some of the situations.
I have s-
From an enforcement perspective, and this is just my humble opinion, having seen it done in other municipalities, a decibel reading acts as both a sword and a shield.
Right.
It's a sword because if you've got somebody that obviously is making noise at the wrong times or exceeding the decibels, it's very you take your reading at the specified distance and you go and say turn your music down until we get to the right level. It's a shield because if you do have complaints that are unsubstantiated, you can go to that property and take a reading and see if even at the distance of the property, if the neighbor's air conditioner is making more noise than the source about which you're complaining, then you no longer have you no longer can substantiate that complaint. So that's the idea behind it.
Okay.
Again, the decibel readings are collective work. It's not anything. It wasn't necessarily scientific. It's just based on some of the readings that were obtained in the past. We can provide that information for you. Actually, I think William, you've provided that in the past, right? Or, yeah.
Where did you obtain the 90 decibel level? I'm not sure. Is it because you've measured what the levels are?
Right. The chief had you conducted measurements. Yeah. If you want to talk.
90 decibel levels is equivalent to a gas-powered lawnmower.
Right. The thing is, 90 decibels is the OSHA permissible allowable permissible exposure level for an 8-hour time weighted average for a worker. So you're not supposed to exceed exposure to 90 decibels for an employee over 8 hours. If we're allowing 90 decibels in a residential area, that's not giving them the ability, say if they're already in a noise. And the reason for the OSHA standard is so that when they go home, they're subjected to quieter time and they have an ability, their hearing system has an ability to recuperate from the high noise. I'm just wondering, the levels are already 90 in this area, 100 feet from these commercial areas? That's pretty high.
We took an average over an extended, and I don't have that information right in front of me. But
I
we
have
took-
it here, Chief. If you want. I know the highest reading you took on Ludlam, north and south, was 80.25 decibels.
But is that is sustained, or that's because a vehicle is going by? Because
That was from a stationary position. We took all our readings from stationary positions.
for how long, Chief? Like the
we did it
readings?
for several weeks, especially on the weekends, Friday nights, Saturday nights, at different spots from different distances. And we took it for several minutes during that time period.
And what equipment do we use? We have a
We,
handheld sound level
we
meter?
bought some decibel reading meters. I don't know if that's the correct terminology, but they are certified and so forth, and I think we bought 2.
So just for example, in that one, our conversation was, well, you couldn't possibly set the decibels lower than the ambient noise already produced in the area. And so that was the thought behind the 90.
But the ambient
and we
noise
can talk
is too
about
high.
we can talk about whether that 90 is a peak as opposed to sustained,
I
and
think
make that
that's the
you know.
issue. There's no way we
Well,
have
I-
90 decibels of ambient noise there.
I'd like to
That's
see
very
that,
noisy.
that you cite that 90 from where you're getting that 90. I'd like to see it in
OSHA.
you
That's
see it-
OSHA. It doesn't apply to it.
No, I would.
It doesn't
I would,
apply
no, I
to
would like
residential. It
before the
applies.
statement's made like that, I would like council to have an opportunity to read that, to understand what you're talking about for the 90 decibels. You know, I'm taking your word, but I'd like to read that
No
to
problem.
understand.
I was going to suggest we delay this
Well,
because
okay,
I would like to.
Okay, but I'm asking you a
us-
question. I'd like to see that in writing for all of us to read
OSHA
about the 90,
1910.
the 90 decibel, or staff can look it up for us.
Okay, for the record, it's Code of Federal 29 CFR Code of Federal Regulation 1910-95.
I'd like to read that.
And recall, council, this is on
But
first
this is
reading,
only
so-
for, and also that is only for workplaces.
I
So
understand, I
you know what I'm
understand.
saying? But I'm saying it as a reference. If
Of course.
90 is considered too high, the allowable level for a worker, I think this is too high for residential.
And what we could do again is that we could potentially look at changing this to say shall not exceed peak emission of 90 decibels and a sustained emission of 80
I think that's
decibels.
what we have to go as
play
sustained.
with the
Because,
language, yeah.
you know, a truck could come by and you get a very
And
high
get a
peak,
spike.
but that's.
Or the
right.
trains can can couple
Right.
together and make a noise, and then it, but again, we do have, depending on what part of the city you're in, you're going to be subject to louder sound than other communities. You live along Ludlam or anywhere near in the bird section, you have higher ambient noise than other places. If you live anywhere near, the airport, you're going to have the same thing. If you happen to front Okeechobee along Royal Poinciana, you're going to have higher ambient noise. So the idea was to find a sweet spot where, but we can take a look at that and come back to you with a few scenarios for second reading.
Yeah, I think we can vote on this and get it going forward, and then second reading, like we did the other ordinance. And if there's something in second reading that doesn't suffice all of us, we can put it to another reading. But at least we keep the ball rolling here.
Absolutely.
I have somebody speak on this item, and that's Ms. Owens.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Neri Owens, Corridon Drive. The proposed changes to Chapter 99 noise are ambiguous and seem to allow more noise rather than less. Definition of noise disturbance. Any sound in quantities which are or may be potentially harmful or injurious to human health or welfare, or which unnecessarily interferes with the enjoyment of life or property of a reasonable person with normal sensitivities. This nebulous definition can mean anything. To an American person, this would be noise at 60 decibels, while to a Hispanic person, this would be noise at 90 decibels. They think loud music is their birthright, never mind the laws and constitutional rights of quiet enjoyment. The proposed ordinance, Section 9903B, noise exceeding permitted decibel levels, which you all were talking about. It reads, any noise in excess of 90 decibels in any residential neighborhood or any commercial neighborhood abutting residential between 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. or 65 decibels in a residential neighborhood between 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. An airplane taking off of the north runway reaches 90 decibels at 50 feet from the ground. That's to give you an idea of how loud 90 decibels is. This section states that the measurement will be taken at the dwelling of the complaining party or at 100 feet from the property of the noise. Our current code, Section 9902, defines that music or noise plainly audible at a distance of 50 feet in commercial and 25 feet in residential districts from the building, structure, vehicle, or premises is a violation. So you are now increasing decibels and measuring at 100 feet from the property. That's 4 times further out than the current noise ordinance, and not being measured from the building where the noise is occurring. It's from the property. Even Metro is stricter than you are proposing. Chapter 2128B of the Miami-Dade County Code states, in such a manner as to be plainly audible at a distance of 100 feet from the building, structure, or vehicle in which it is located. In 9907 penalties, a city officer who finds a violation may issue an oral warning. He can issue a civil violation for $100 if the violation is not corrected with reasonable due diligence. If the violator has received a written citation previously within 12 months, the city officer can issue a civil violation imposing a fine of $250. If the city officer responds to the same violation 3 times within 24 hours, the matter may be referred to the police department. The county code section 2128 states, and I'm comparing the county code to this proposed code, any person violating any of the provisions of this section shall be punished by a fine not to exceed $500, imprisonment in the county jail not to exceed 60 days, or both. It seems to me that the punishment of the proposed ordinance is encouragement for residents to have loud parties with no penalties. The city officer could be a code compliance, public works employee, anybody that works for the city. The $100 civil fine would have to be issued by code compliance by our existing code right now, or the Miami Springs Police. To turn the matter over to the police if the violation continues and the city officer goes out 3 times is insane. That does not solve the noise problem. The loud party will continue until dawn. Right now, the police department handles noise complaints. Sometimes you can tell when the police leave. The music gets turned up higher than before, especially if the party has been serving liquor. After the police responded 3 times to 376 Payne Drive last New Year's Eve, the music was turned down at 5:30 in the morning. The party had started at 6 o'clock the night before. That's almost 12 hours of loud music, and I'm sure the police went out 3 or 4 times. If a Miami Springs resident wants to have a party that loud for that long, they need to rent a facility, not have it in the backyard torturing neighbors. I think we need to have noise handled by the Miami Springs Police with a fine at the second response to be $250. And if the police have to return, the fine should be $500 equal to the county code. Not less, but equal to the county code. And section 9920 permits. I believe that the person shall apply, will be required, shall apply for the permit 30 days prior to producing such noise. That gives the city manager time to investigate, and if he decides to send notices to nearby residents, he will need 7 to 10 days for certified mail, or maybe more time. I think residents should be notified every time a permit is issued. Section 9922C provides for property owners within 350 feet of the applicant's property to be notified. I think this should be changed to a 500 or 1,000 foot radius of the property, just like your code enforcement. 90 decibels can be heard for 1,000 feet. In review, my concerns are 90 decibels for daytime and 65 decibels from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. is permitting too much noise. The code now is much stronger with a distance of 50 and 25 feet from the building, not 100 feet from the property used for taking the measurement. Miami Springs is not South Beach with all the nightclubs. We are a residential community. The penalties are worthless. We need to follow the county code with $500 fines, and the police department should handle noise, not any or a city officer. Finally, if the person is applying for a permit, it should be done 30 days prior to the event, so the city manager has time to investigate, approve, and should always send out notices to the residents. If you would like to see the county ordinance or Miami Springs' current ordinance, I have it, and I'll be happy to share it with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
I told you. It's a tough thing.
Well, listen,
What you're trying to do is a tough thing.
I can't.
I mean,
when we prepared this ordinance, we didn't take people's ethnicity into consideration.
I know that.
That's first and foremost. I will say that.
Well put, Danny.
Yeah. Well, I would say that while certainly parties is a type of scenario that we had to consider, there are a lot of different scenarios that we had to consider. Everything from garbage collection on through to construction, and so just keep that in mind as you're looking at the code.
Chief, do you have one of them things in the office?
Dosimeter?
I'd like to know because this noise here.
Oh, this is right
But
now.
I'm just trying to say, I would like to know what that decibel is right now. Listen, I've been coming to this council a long time.
I hear it.
I don't. This is the first time I hear it because we're talking about it. But I'd like to know what that is. And it would give a guide to another,
HVA.
about speech, about everybody saying what a decibel is, so that people can understand what a decibel is, what is.
That's
But
it.
you don't have one. If you don't have one,
It's
take a look. Take a look.
No,
Dan, I would like to suggest that we look more at EPA standards, not at the OSHA. I brought those up because that's a significant, 90 decibels is considered hazardous. And actually, the noise scale is logarithmic. So there's a big difference between 85 decibels and 90 decibels. It's not like just a little bit more. There's the significant, with every increase in decibel level, you have a significant increase in noise level.
And certainly peak
So-
versus sustained, I think, is also very
Right,
good.
so that's very important. So ambient noise at 90 degrees is way too high.
90 decibels.
I'm sorry, 90 decibels
90
is.
degrees is high, too.
At
No,
90
the
so-
ambient
It's an L.
recorded was
But
80.
that
but yeah.
said, I think we do need to establish an acceptable level, an allowable level, so that
But as
the
you know,
police can go and
standards by the government, and the different standards that are presented to us, and everything that we have, are many times very much below, higher or below really what the real threshold is. So I don't know. I can't understand this 90 decibel situation when you're sitting outside in your front yard, and it's if the chief and the people did the research and found 80 decibels in the air. I mean, I don't know where we're going to go with this as far as how you're going to have to go ahead and to educate me.
We
is
can't-
to show me like this. What do you consider this decibel?
that is negligible. At 90 decibels, we would not be able to hold a conversation next to each other.
No.
That's how loud. It's disturbing. It's not.
Pretty much.
It's just
Believe it or not-
disturbing. We
believe
would
it or
be
not,
screaming at each
it-
other to be able to hold a conversation.
To give some frame of reference, people speaking, a regular conversation could be 65, 70 decibels. I mean, so it's
That's a push.
we
Yeah.
cross-referenced a number of publications that had these charts, which we can actually we'll pull several out and circulate to all of you. But I think the point is it's whether I mean, because look, when the garbage trucks go through the alley, that's pushing out some significant sound. But it's for
But
a
it's not
moment and then it
sustained.
passes.
Not
And I
Right.
think the issue of peak versus sustained may be the linchpin
Exactly.
argument, where we have to be ready to understand that there may be noises in a particular area that might go up to a certain point, but it won't be sustained. I
Exactly.
mean, the only time you'll have sustained is if you have, for example, the music.
Or a lawnmower.
Right. Or
Okay.
but even a lawnmower, where you're talking about,
About an hour and a half, you're cutting the lawn.
Sure.
You know.
Sure.
That's sustained.
Mayor, how,
He pushes. He doesn't ride, Councilman.
No, I was just gonna say that's. Gosh, what's he doing? I mean, hour and a half? What? Just kidding, Billy.
No, but I mean.
Yeah, no, I get you. I
I'm
get what you're
just trying
saying.
to understand this because
I know you are. I am
because
too. I am too.
You could pick it to death, and you're not going to get an ordinance.
Yeah, and we've been through this up here before on this thing, and this Dan, God bless you for taking a shot at it, but we've been through it before, and Jan had a couple 3 bouts with it. I've heard a couple numbers thrown around up here tonight, and I just can't believe what I'm hearing. One from Councilman Mitchell, 90 decibels is the OSHA level. Well, if 90 decibels is sustained as an OSHA level, then every MRO on Miami International Airport would be shut down just by bucking rivets on a 767. Neary Owens got up there and said the northwest pattern, or the 9 right pattern going out of here, 90 decibels. No. Much higher.
Give you for
No, I got one more.
Go ahead,
I
go
got
ahead.
one more
I'll
for you.
give
I'm just
another
going to throw
for
these
instance.
3 out for everybody's consideration here. The other one I got is, we were talking about quiet zones earlier, weren't we? Imagine that. The railroad coming through here. I think all of us up here, I know the previous council discussed this, and I've read up on it and talked to railroad people about it. But CSX and FEC recently, I say recently, 18 months ago, refitted their locomotives with horns twice as loud as the ones that you... Now, go sit over there on North Royal, ace out at the railroad track, and let them come through there and hit that horn and tell me that's 90 decibels, and I'll buy you a cup of coffee.
Okay, we're talking.
It's a
let's
$1.20
not-
How long does
better.
it take for you to get a reading? You're reading right now?
Okay, what's my decibels, Chief, right now? That's because I'm being mic'd, though.
But still.
But
But
the
I'm trying
90 decibels is an 8-hour time-weighted average. That's why I'm saying, and you, yes, people are exposed beyond that. But as an employer, and that's why I'm saying those are for workplace, you're required to provide hearing protection and hearing conservation program. It's not that you don't work in
Right.
in excess of 90 decibels for an 8-hour time-weighted average.
Right.
It's that the employer's required to protect the employee so that he can. So we're getting into areas, that's why I'm saying those are just workplace, but 90 decibels is a significant exposure for someone at their home, an ambient level at night. That's why I think we need to relook. That being said, I agree we need to have a level. We need to establish levels so that the police, when they show up, they have something to go by. We just need to rework the 90 decibel as ambient noise.
And the other thing I would add, just as compared to the Miami-Dade County Code, Miami-Dade County Code is similar to what we have right now, and it's proving to be inadequate because of the subjectivity of something that is plainly audible at a distance, because there are a lot of things that are plainly audible. And certainly Miami-Dade County has decided not to move forward, but there are a lot of cities that have decided to move from that plainly audible standard to a decibel reading, because you may have a situation where you have someone of heightened sensitivity. They may sleep with their windows open, or they may work at night and sleep during the day. And so there's a certain amount of if you have those types of situations, there's a certain amount of personal responsibility that has to take place, recognizing the fact that you have a sleep pattern that may differ from, let's say, the majority of the community. And so this is a way to establish a baseline. But you're right. I mean, these things are not set in concrete whatsoever, and we knew we were going to be going back and forth on them.
Yeah.
I think it's a great effort. We just need to.
Like
I don't
like your
think we're- I
average
don't
has
think we're
been
there
so
yet.
far, Chief? Your average for the 2 minutes? Yeah, what, from 57? Mid-60s, and then get close to that noise over here.
I don't know what noise you're talking about. It's starting to concern me that I
That
can't hear
buzzing
it.
he's
That
talking.
buzzing. Just
Yeah,
stand-
I'm
just
confused.
stand there.
Right.
It's the
Yeah.
sleeping air conditioning system. It's the air conditioning system, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's probably all of you talking.
But for example, your neighbor's air conditioner cranking on could hit 80 easily, 80,
for sure.
85.
If that's 40
and those
something.
are and those will
Yeah.
be.
But
And
that
if you have an old
is-
air conditioner that's not in the rear yard but in the side yard, that could be 15 feet from your home. The thing is that one, after a while, you just get used to it. So it's sort of an interesting exercise when you come to realize what sound are all around us and what we've come to. What
And
we've become
sound
accustomed to.
is very impacted by distance, the
Yes.
further away. And then again, keep in mind the logarithmic scale that, there's a big difference in an increase of just 5 decibels. So I think these are all things we just need to work on so we have something that we all feel comfortable with and enforcing.
And just the last thing I'll say with regards to some of the punitive aspects of it, that was done in consult with staff. And while there are plenty of sound ordinances that have an arrest component to them, I know that most recently, I think Pinecrest was one of the ones that most recently implemented that. And their circumstance was that they have a lot of homes that are mansions that are rented by Airbnb, renting it out for loud parties. And so as a way to try and regulate these house parties where people pay to go in, they made it an arrestable offense. If that's something that the city council would like to entertain, we can add that as an additional tier of punishment after a certain number of repeated violations.
It's rather draconic, isn't it?
Mayor, I have a couple of questions. Now, you called it a quiet time or a quiet zone?
Quiet time.
Oh, Jamie, that's the railroad.
No, I know, but that's where I got confused. You called it a quiet
No, I
zone.
used it as an
Oh,
analogy,
okay.
only with relative to decibels,
So
is what I was
the
saying.
quiet time that you're trying to set is from 11 to 7.
Right. I mean, so right now it's arguable. It's between 10 and 11 because the way the code is set up gives the city manager the discretion of pushing it up to 11. It's the issue we've been having with Woody's, and so
I'm sorry. So this is not for citywide. This is only for businesses.
no, this is citywide.
Citywide.
Right.
I thought citywide was. I remember for those of you that weren't here, the only two that were here was the mayor and myself. When this came up last time, we had over 200 people show up here. They were totally against this.
I was here.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
They were against what, Councilman? Can you explain?
Changing the time.
Oh,
Right now,
time.
you can call at any time, correct? If there's a party going on, you don't have to do it after 11. You could do it just about any time of the day.
I mean, you can still report, and that's why there are still some subjective components to it. There are noise disturbances that do not fall within. I mean, that you can call at any time. I mean, certainly if there's construction noise going on that is
Or a
real-
party.
right? But yeah, or a party. But if it's a party in the middle of the day, obviously your sensibilities about that sound are different than if it's at night, because your sensitivity goes up when you're trying to sleep. But let's just say that someone is doing some kind of construction, and it's reached to the point that it's being a noise disturbance. That it is so impactful to you that even any reasonable person, again, regardless of their ethnicity, would take offense to that. That is something that could still be a violation. It doesn't necessarily have to fall, but what this decibel reading allows the code enforcement officer, the police officer to do is use an objective standard when identifying whether a noise disturbance is getting to that point.
Councilman Loeb, you remember that, right? I know Billy's getting a little old, he forgets things, but you remember that, correct? Thank you. It was only the mayor and myself up here when
But
this
it
came
wasn't
up.
200 people. I know what you're talking about now. But what, 200
When I
people?
called you old,
thought
you
were
remember,
talking-
right?
I thought you were talking about something else.
Is it, in the past, have we had weekdays or less, or 10 till 10 p.m. and weekends are 11 p.m.? I think I've seen that in past. It's always been consistent across the
No,
board.
we've always had, the current code that we have now has 10 o'clock, period, for all areas. And I have been able to extend 1 hour on Fridays and Saturdays for one location.
Right.
right.
Question for the chief, Mayor, if I might. Chief, how many, and I don't know if this is fair to ask you, because you're obviously, you see stats and you see reports and this and that, but in a 30-day period, how many complaints do the police department get where your officers have to be dispatched for a noise complaint?
That depends. There's been some 30-day periods.
I know some are more and some are less, but ish.
A couple, maybe.
Yeah, right. Are we making a mountain out of a molehill here? I'm just wondering. I don't know.
That's what I said. It's going to be no matter what
Yeah,
this
it's all
ordinance
happens.
does,
Yeah.
it's all becomes, in my opinion, the personalities of the people that are around the areas that
Sure.
live. But at least you have some guidelines here.
Correct.
And so at
Let 'em-
least you have a guide and it doesn't, you're using a technical tool to create what is over too loud and not, and okay. So at least you have a technical tool that you're using with a machine. Whereas now we go by what bothers me doesn't bother you, what bothers her doesn't bother me.
He said, she
So
said,
at least you have that tool. It's worth the situation to go ahead and, in my opinion, to vote this in, and any other changes that need to be proposed to the attorneys. And you got 2 weeks. Anything that comes up and you think about that you might want to change with reading this a little closer and better, you can propose it to them and they can propose it to us the next reading. If it doesn't satisfy us at that time, we can continue doing it, but at least I think we ought to move it, so we're moving it forward and not shelving it in another 2 weeks. So I would ask you would go ahead and make the motion to approve the first reading pending amendments to come to second reading.
well, I'm not overly favorable about it, but I'll do that.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
You're not getting it from me.
Okay. Can I get a
Because I'm
second?
gonna vote no like I did the last time.
I'll get a second on this, saying that you're going to rework these sound level meters, sound levels, acceptable sound levels, and come back to us with a revised
Absolutely.
levels, allowable levels.
We'll take a look at again. We'll bring we'll do some research on and bring you the sound charts that we use.
Okay, and again, I don't want to use the OSHA standards. I was bringing that up, but that would not apply for here because that's for workers. So we need
I
to look
understand,
for.
but it's a good
okay.
frame of reference. We'll take a look at
Yeah.
the EPA standards as well, and then we'll take a look at sustained versus peak, and that might be a pretty significant contribution.
And I would like whatever measurements they take are for sustained, because for instance, comparing against with the OSHA, 120 decibels is allowed for impact noise,
Well, you're going
like a
with-
hammer.
Sure.
You're
So
going
there's
for
a big,
peak. The word's peak.
we're not going for peak, we're going for sustained.
Yeah.
You're going to
Okay.
go for sustained?
Yes,
Well, I mean,
absolutely.
I think you
I would
Well,
think
Has to be.
I don't know about going for sustained.
Well, Bill, I would think that would make more sense than peak. Peak can be like
A
bang,
truck
it's
could
over.
come by.
It's over.
Right.
Sustained it's continuous.
Well, we can have both.
That's what I want.
Saying something.
Right, that's what she's saying.
That's what she said.
We can have a sustained, and then says that, and then with peak levels not to exceed whatever the number is, and we recognize that peak shall mean a short
Okay,
interval.
we got it. We got the first and the second. You're gonna amend it to the wishes of council as the day goes on, or as the 2 weeks go on.
Right, it comes back to us on the
Any suggestions, give it to the attorney.
Right.
And then when it comes up to us, the changes will be presented to us.
Right.
And we'll go forward.
Come back to us on the 28th,
Okay,
right?
I got a first and second.
Yeah.
Call the vote.
Yep.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapata.
Yes.
Councilman Petralanda.
No. No.
Mayor Bain.
Yes. I would like to take 5 minutes. Recess. We'll come back in 5 minutes now.
Those are actual 5 minutes, or those are Cuban 5 minutes?
I don't know why. You always still catch me off guard with that.
That's 120 decibels. That's why.
So is that gavel.
That's what I'm telling
No,
her.
that
She says
gavel
she
would
jumps
be on.
every time. I said that's 120 decibels.
She does, I noticed.
All right, we're going on. We're going.
It gets me every time.
So where are we going now to?
Yeah, flooding.
We're on E. We're talking about discussion about medical marijuana.
Yes, let me read this. You want me to read this memo, Dan, or you want to? As the city council may recall, the city has enacted and extended a moratorium on the permitting of any medical marijuana dispensaries in the city, awaiting Florida's legislation enacting enabling
Why don't you let Danny
legislation
read it?
No, he's
and
fine.
Florida's
Let him go.
Department of Health promulgated implementing regulations. Now that the regulatory framework is mostly in place, the administration requests direction from council on its policy prerogative on whether to allow dispensaries within city limits. The city attorney and staff have discussed this issue, and the following will provide some guidance. Number one, the regulation to cultivating, processing, and delivery of marijuana is preempted to the state of Florida, except as limited by statute. Number two, municipalities by ordinance may ban medical marijuana dispensing facilities from being located within their boundaries of that municipality. Number three, municipalities that do not ban medical marijuana dispensing facilities may not regulate them any more restrictive than pharmacies. And number four, municipalities may, however, prohibit a medical marijuana dispensing facility to be located within 500 feet of a K-12 school unless the city approves the location through a formal proceeding, most likely a public hearing similar to a special exception, and determines that the location promotes the public health, safety, and welfare. Certain municipalities in Miami-Dade County, like Coral Gables, have chosen to implement a ban on medical marijuana dispensing facilities as authorized by statute, and also arguing that the use, though permitted by Florida's Constitution and statutes, is still illegal under federal law, which makes marijuana a Schedule I narcotic. Other municipalities have chosen to permit dispensaries, arguing that the ban may be found to be an infringement on the authority created by the constitutional amendment and a regulation that is not rationally related to public safety and welfare. Until a court of competent jurisdiction strikes down the ban, municipalities are free to enact one. A further continuation of the moratorium in light of the now available legal framework may be challenged on due process grounds. As such, it is recommended that the city issue a zoning in progress notice on the issue of medical marijuana dispensing facilities and direct the city manager and city attorney to prepare an ordinance banning them or otherwise permitting them within city limits. I guess through all that legal jargon is we have two options. We either permit them, and if we do, we have to treat them as pharmacies.
That's right.
Or use the Coral Gables example and ban them under federal law.
The issue that I have with that is that if we are sued, okay, we're gonna have to pay the court costs, correct, for everybody, ours and whoever is suing us. This is something that the folks in our state passed, correct? So we will be going against the people's will.
But not against federal law. Federal law
Right, I
doesn't
understand,
allow
but
it.
see, the federal government is not gonna come here and sue us. They have other tools in their behalf to stop us. You should be concerned about the state, someone in the state suing us, and that's where we're gonna have to pick up the tab for whoever's suing us to allow us, and we're probably going to lose, correct?
So, I would say it's possible, and I would fall short of just saying it's likely, but it's probably likely that a city that enacts a ban is going to be sued.
Exactly.
However, right now what the Department of Health is doing is finishing its application process to be able to accept applicants for the 10 medical marijuana treatment centers permits that are being done. 7 regular, 2 that are tied to citrus, and 1 that is tied to historically black farms. Once those are in place, then the medical marijuana treatment centers are the ones that are going to go in and put the dispensaries. I will tell you that it's possible that one of them may challenge a ban, but they may also choose to go where they're wanted and try to put their dispensaries in cities to avoid the ban. It's uncertain whether courts will uphold the ban. Right now, it is provided to us as a legal option because it's in the statute.
Yeah.
There is an argument, though, that saying you're banning them is for whatever reason you want to ban them, or whatever reason cities want to ban them, is even under a lower scrutiny test is not enough. Like, there's not enough connecting points to make a reasonable argument. Unfortunately, the cities don't have the ability to say we would permit them, but only in industrial areas, which may be something that people everywhere might find acceptable.
Yeah.
The way that the legislature wrote the bill, it says you either treat them like pharmacies or you ban them. And the problem with treating them like pharmacies is that in most codes in most cities, pharmacies are permitted in most retail settings. And so I'll have to double check because I haven't cross-referenced Miami Springs code, because certainly if you ban it, I'm not going to waste that time. But presuming that in Central Business District, it's mostly retail, if pharmacies are permitted, which one we know one is, which one just closed, you would have to allow them in the Central Business District. So that is the problem that many cities are having trouble with, is that even though they may want to permit them somewhere in the city, the fact that they have to permit them practically everywhere that there's commercial is weighing heavily on them, and cities are choosing to ban them.
Now, in reality, isn't it very stupid way they did this? In other words,
Yeah,
they
really.
gave you they gave you
Right.
no options. They yes or no, and it
Far be it from me to
It's-
criticize the infinite wisdom of the state legislature.
well,
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
unbelievable.
Smart.
It's boy, they really give us some good things to do here. I don't know. I
Well-
mean, I know what I want to do, but I'll hear from the other people.
First of all, for Coral Gables to cite federal law is ridiculous to begin with, and I don't think that had anything to do with that what was on the bill last November relative to medical marijuana in the state of Florida whatsoever. It is foolish for the federal government to consider it a Class 1 narcotic. A. Secondly, I think that we could probably come to some understanding here in the city to preclude any legal renderings down the road that could potentially haunt us, that we could arrive at a place in this town between the 5 of us that would make sense, and not just open it up and have, okay, come on in and put it in anywhere. I would propose that we give this some thought and come back on the 28th and come up with some locations, and we'll vote on it.
Unfortunately, we don't have that latitude. We don't have that latitude. We either permit them everywhere where pharmacies are permitted. Now, the only caveat to that.
Well, we have 2 pharmacies in town right now, right?
Right. Well, you
With
have to think
Statics
about them
leaving.
in not exactly where a pharmacy is currently located, but
is
the
zoning.
zoning districts in which the use is permitted.
Well, okay.
Okay. So for example, in that case, we would be able to say let's just say it's permitted in the Central Business District, and be able then to limit them 500 feet from a K through 12 school.
Right.
Right. So that, I mean, there are a number of K-12 schools, not K through 12, but we have Miami Springs Elementary. We'll have to double check. I know that Grace Lutheran goes up to kindergarten. I'll have to check at the Baptist school. So there are some exclusions for that.
Yep.
But otherwise, to be able to pick and choose the land use and zoning districts to put them in, we can't do it. And the issue with the Schedule 1 is that under federal law, and I won't be able to cite this verbatim, so forgive me, under federal law, a Schedule 1 drug is one that has a number of criteria, one of which means that it's highly addicting, and secondly has no medical use whatsoever. And certainly Amendment number 2 and the 38 other states that have, or 37 other states that have approved medical marijuana, flies in the face of that. And there's a bunch of other legalities associated with that are beyond our issue. I can tell you that there are two pieces of legislation that have been filed in Congress. One is to simply just take medical marijuana out of Class 1 schedule and put it in Class 2, which there they identify it is a controlled substance, but there are medical uses associated with it. So therefore, states that have medical marijuana are no longer, legislation no longer run afoul of that. And that also affects banks and their ability to take in money and do business, as well as accountants, lawyers, doctors that prescribe it.
It's a laundry
et cetera, et
list,
cetera.
yeah.
But right now, and by the other one, by I think it's Representative Booker, is to do that and also, reduce medical marijuana mandatory minimums and all those other things. So it's possible that one of those might get through. One failed this year. At the end of the day, today, if we do nothing, and somebody knocks on our door and says, "I want to put one of these things up," we're going to get sued and we're going to lose. If we institute a ban, it might just be a stay away, and somebody may or may not sue us, and we'll have to challenge that. I know that if we get sued, what's going to happen is sort of like the ATS lawsuit. There will probably be a number of people opting into the lawsuit, and it might become like a class action thing.
Well, it becomes one of these, doesn't it? It's a not in my backyard thing, isn't it? Bottom line.
For some municipalities,
Yeah,
yes.
sure.
Let me
Yeah,
ask you-
Gables. No, Bill, let me finish, please, if I might, sir. 73% of registered voters in this state voted this in.
Yep.
Who are we to tell 73% of the voters in this state you can't come here?
Right. We hope they do.
I'm not even talking about the legal ramifications, which you're mentioning, which I agree with you. I think we're foolish not to designate
I
something.
agree with that. Can we at least limit to how many facilities in the city?
No.
You can't. So
No, you can't regulate
as
the
far
number.
as pharmacies goes, we don't have anything in the code downtown. Like laundromats, I know we limit it to 2. There's some stipulations. I don't have it in front of me to know, but
Well, I know that specifically we can't regulate the number of them. Now, unlike laundromats, for example, you put a number on them. The only thing we'd be able to do is put a distance separation from them. And just say, if your options are ban it, permit them everywhere, or permit them with the caveat that they can't be within the maximum 500 feet of a K through 12 school. So that when somebody were to come in, and let's just say somebody would want to put a dispensary across the street from City Hall where the Strand Salon is, they come in for a permit, and then we'd say, listen, you're within 500 feet of Miami Springs Elementary. You can't open there.
As you know, most of our facility, better word, I'll say facilities in this city that have sell alcohol. Most of them have variances because most of your bars and serve spirits are within 500 feet of different schools. They all have got variances to do that.
We could also include, whether it's considered a special exception or a conditional use. It's basically somebody comes in and says, listen, I know I'm within 500 feet, but, there's a canal in between us and there's other mitigating circumstances, so I think that you all should consider it.
Well, yeah.
And then you all can do that at a public hearing.
Right. That's basically how we do the variances, like at the golf course. When Hurricane, we have the school there. All over within 500 feet of a lot of the schools, and they've been granted variances, and some of them are grandfathered in.
I would just say that if this evening you're ready to give us direction and there's consensus for something, then you can do that. If you all need more time, then the only direction I would ask is that we issue a zoning in progress, which just tells the public we're working on something, and it's a little bit more protection than just simply there's a moratorium, because now we've had a moratorium, two moratoria at this point, and a continuation of it or a prolonged moratorium could be looked at as a sort of backdoor way to ban them without actually banning them. Right in your feet.
The caveat, I have a question. If we put in a caveat of no more than, say, 500 feet, not within 500 feet of public schools, we can put that in, and that would apply to pharmacies also? Would have to apply to pharmacies also, that caveat?
No. I mean, this is one area that the legislature has given the city's latitude to put a condition on their placement.
Dan, when you say schools K to 12, does that cover daycare or
No.
pre-K? It doesn't, or
not.
recreational playgrounds or anything?
private schools?
Public and private charter
I-
schools?
I gotta double check. I don't think it matters if it's charter, private, or
Okay,
public.
okay.
But I know that specifically it does not include daycares.
Okay.
Well, I think that you ought to go ahead and, I would go ahead and continue to understand, to give us more information on where the school to 500 feet is.
Okay.
Of schools, and where a possible place it could be put.
Okay.
Okay?
I don't
And-
think
and
banning
see.
makes sense.
And see. And I will make, I know on a personal level that this medical marijuana has helped some people that in my family that needed to use it, and it does work. It does seem to give some good results for a lot of people. So I would ask council to allow you to do your research to find where the place would be that's not within 500 feet of a school.
So similar to the parking study, but just carve out 500 foot radii from K through 12 schools and come back with a snapshot of the city.
Yeah, and come with-
I've been to Colorado numerous times, and I've seen these medical marijuana facilities in place, and I just don't think they belong in our city. I'm not against having them. I just don't see a place for them in our city.
I don't think none of us do though, but it's the law.
Well, no, but the federal law does not allow them. So
Yeah,
I
but
think,
again,
and I
you
think we
can't
can
cite
follow
federal
Coral
law.
Gable's lead here of,
you're
for the
gonna
time
put-
being, we ban them.
I think
So
you're
I
gonna
would
put
like to
our city-
propose a motion that we ban allowing medical marijuana facilities in our city.
Do I have a second? Well, I think second falls because, the motion falls because there's no second. So I'll guess I'll entertain a motion to allow staff to research and come back to us with the situation of where we might best put a medical marijuana facility.
You have that motion for me,
You
sir.
have a second.
Any further discussion? Call the vote.
Aye.
No.
Yes.
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 So Mayor and Council, with that additional work, we're gonna go ahead and also issue that zoning in progress, just to let if anybody that has an interest in coming into Miami Springs know, not to preemptively file a lawsuit challenging a moratorium because something may be coming down the pipeline.
Right.
Let's just hope nobody does.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
and I'll just say this, that, to the point of potential litigation, before legislation was enacted in that special session, most cities, I think all cities in Florida, if certainly not all of them, received an email from an interested party specifically asking, what are your regulations in place? Knowing it's sort of like one of these people that does the gotcha tactics for public records and things like that. So there are people that are going to try and make this a legal niche industry, either
money.
challenging a
Sure they
moratorium,
are.
challenging no action, or challenging a ban.
Sure.
And it's going to be, and again, this is not supporting, I'm just saying that from a legal perspective, we're all gearing up to know that these fights are coming, and we'll see what happens.
It's all about money.
Dan, how long does that get us, the zoning in progress?
There's not a specific time frame, but at least it shows that.
What's
we're-
reasonable?
I think we should have something on the books one way or the other, 60 to 90 days.
Well, we've had the 2 moratoriums for how long now?
The last one was
A
180
year.
days from the day that it was enacted.
But the 2 adds
Yeah,
up to a year.
It would be a year. Although I got to tell you, I think we were well within our right for the first one because there was no enacting
Right.
regulations whatsoever.
Right.
And the regulations that affect licensing and permitting don't have anything to do with us. We got our marching orders from the state, which was enacted already.
Okay.
Gotcha.
We're going to a Halloween event.
Yes,
Halloween
uh,
key.
Halloween
What?
event.
I missed one?
No, you got it right.
No, you got it.
Halloween event.
This is a memo from Tammy Key, Professional Services Specialist. Let me just read what she wrote, and then I'll pass it to her. I am recommending the creation of a family-friendly Halloween event on Westwood Drive, Curtis to Park Street, that will strengthen the connection between local businesses, the city, and residents, and will aid in the revitalization of our downtown corridor. This event will be free and open to the public and would occur on Saturday, October 28th from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. The cost of the city will not exceed $2,000, and the intention is to make this an annual event. Details, local businesses will set up decorated tables or tents on Westwood Drive and will give out store-bought wrapped candy and promotional materials. The main draw of the event will be a jack-o'-lantern contest open to all ages with 5 different age categories and prizes donated by local businesses. Participants will be encouraged to purchase pumpkins locally from the Lutheran Church or Milam's and will be asked to submit carved or painted pumpkins for judging. Winners will be announced at 8 p.m. with battery-powered candle-illuminated entries on display until 8:30 p.m. Other event features will include a DJ, photo stations, and a spooky storytelling corner, which will be a partnership between the Miami Springs Branch Library and the city with a council member as a guest reader. The proposed name of the event is Annual Jack-O-Lantern Spooktacular. And I turn it over to Tammy so she can...
Hi, good evening, Mayor and Council. I thought of this idea originally thinking about living here in Miami Springs. I live over on Truxton Drive, and the past few years, I always sit outside on Halloween, and the trick-or-treaters have really dropped off. And I know there's a movement now toward, going indoors for events or going to parties for Halloween. But I was looking at Westward Drive, and I know that a lot of our businesses are really struggling along Westward Drive. I know we do a lot of events on the Circle. Doing things on Westward Drive doesn't interrupt the traffic pattern like it does when we close down the Circle at the bridge and all the way around. What I'm proposing is closing it from Big Tomato at the Circle just to Park Street where the salon is, and just doing those 2 blocks, both sides, have it be a safe trick-or-treating event for families to come out, and then hopefully get some buzz going with the jack-o'-lantern carving contest and have that kind of be the draw, the reason to come out for it. I spoke to a couple of businesses who were more than willing to donate prizes to the winners, so that helps them as well. So I'm just trying to look at a way to bring the community together, do something safe, do something on this main corridor of the city, and try to bring it back to life and get people over here. And I think it would be convenient as well because there's still areas, for parking and accessibility.
I like the thought. It's what you call thinking out of the jack-o'-lantern, right?
I like it also.
We need to give her a motion to do this, or?
Yeah, just approve it. Same thing, we need to close off the street.
Okay.
Yep. Through the chair, motion.
I move to approve 10F.
Second.
Sorry.
For discussion?
Sure.
Now, when I first, and I'm not against it, let me start off by saying that, but
Okay.
when I first got elected, I remember years ago that the whole talk up here was that every time we close the Circle, we close the Westwood Drive, it impacts these businesses, and they were all complaining about it. Every time you do this, our revenues go down. So we made a pact here that we're going to cut back on how many times we did this a year. That's one of the questions I asked earlier tonight, whether Tom and that art event could be together. Because you're going to close it down for the art, you're going to close it down for the city festival, you're going to close it for that. That's impacting businesses that you yourself said we're struggling. So you're closing down Westwood Drive where the business are. You close the Circle, you impact Westwood Drive. You close Westwood Drive, now you're impacting Westwood Drive. Not so much the Circle anymore because people still can go around. So what I'm trying to say is we got to be careful. And these are all great ideas. I'm all for it. But we got to be careful because we owe these businesses. We talk about our millage being high. We need to keep these businesses thriving.
And that's the whole point of this from my perspective. This would be specifically for our local businesses.
But you're closing down the street.
We are closing down the street, but those businesses will still be open. And it's open for pedestrians, for trick-or-treating.
I know you're new at your job, but have you gone and talked to the people, the businesses on the Circle? Their business goes down when we close the Circle. And they're still open. They're still open. There's still people walking around the Circle.
Right.
But their revenues go down when you close it down.
I spoke to Jeff Dunovitz at Burritoville about it, and he was completely on board with it as well.
Let me ask you, what are you going to do if a lot of these businesses don't participate? Because I remember years ago we used to do that, right, Williams? I think you were here, you were working here years ago. I remember we used to do it. It's a hit. Who doesn't like that? Kids will love
Right.
it. I'm just concerned for the businesses.
Right. Well, this is a proposal that's very cost effective. You know, and I think it's worth a try. I know we've tried other things in the past. The advantage of this is that this is focused on local community, local businesses, whereas when you bring in, not to say anything bad about bringing in outside events, but the thing that happens with outside events is they're promoting it all over the place.
Right.
People are coming in. They're not making the connections, most importantly, with our local businesses. And because there's no connection with the local businesses, what are the people doing? They're showing up, and the only reason they're going in is to use the bathroom.
Right.
And that's when our local business owners get upset, because they're like, okay, great, but how is this going to benefit us? This is a chance for them to hand out candy, hand out promotional material. I had a lengthy discussion with Omar from the rec center, and he was telling me about an event that they used to do in Homestead. And he said, for instance, El Toro Taco would give out a coupon that night that if you came into their restaurant, then they would give you, you know, a free appetizer or a free beer or something like that. Something to draw the local people into the businesses during the event. you
Or
know.
later.
Or later.
Let me ask you, what are you going to do if a lot of these businesses don't participate? And that night comes and you have a Westwood Drive closed and you might have 2 or 3 businesses open.
Well, I would argue that she's probably thought about that already.
That's why I'm asking her. What was she going to do?
And for 3 hours on Westward Drive on a Saturday night, October 28th.
Right.
How many businesses are open anyway?
Right, Vice Mayor. But then we're going to close it for his.
That's the River
event,
City
and we're gonna
Festival.
close it for another event now, and
But this is only for one evening.
This is one
I
evening.
understand, but it's
This
one
is not
evening
for
one
2,
day,
3
another
days.
3 evenings that day, and then 2 evenings the other day. They add up to these businesses.
I
And
mean-
I'm not against it. I don't want you. You guys attacking me like if I'm going to vote
No.
against it.
No,
I'm gonna vote with it.
I'm just
but
asking you.
keep
I'm
that
just
in
trying to
mind.
understand your rationale. Is what I'm trying to do here.
Well, the rationale is that you're hurting the businesses.
They're not even open, though. Is my point.
I think to
On a
Tammy's
Saturday
Really?
night?
On
defense,
a Saturday
I
night,
think she has-
there's a lot of businesses open in Westwood Drive.
Not on Westward Drive. I
What?
think to Tammy's defense that she
The
has
restaurants.
reached out to a few people, and at that time there are not.
My
you know.
point, what happens if that night comes and then there's not a whole lot of businesses? What are the kids going to get?
There's
Have you thought
always
about
there's
that?
always a risk in these things.
Right.
I'm
But
going to
have
be
you thought if
completely
you do that?
honest with you.
I give
And
you credit for giving it a shot.
No, absolutely.
And that's why
I give her credit too.
That's why I wanted to bring it in front of council.
All right.
You know, and say, okay, is it okay for me to move forward and get commitments
There you go.
from these businesses?
Sure, you have to have commitment from us in order for them to
Exactly.
understand. what's
Right,
going on.
exactly. So I didn't want to even have the conversation. I mean, briefly with people that I
Right,
know
I
personally,
understand.
yes, just to feel it out, and it seemed very positive. But yes, I would be looking for a commitment, and it wouldn't just be asking people from this area, local businesses from this area. Other businesses from the circle can also participate.
Sure.
And they can also come and set up some chairs and hand out some candy, and just to make it a very relaxed, family-oriented event. you
Okay,
know.
we got a first and a second.
Yes, sir.
Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapata.
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda.
Yes.
Mayor Bain.
Yes. All right, now you got our permission. Go for it.
Okay, thank you.
Good
Take
luck,
care.
Tammy.
Good luck, Tammy. We go to consideration. We did that. Where are we at? Rental, the multi-purpose room at the Aquatic Center for weddings and parties and other events.
Let me read the memo. At the request of Councilwoman Mitchell, staff looked at the feasibility of renting the multipurpose room at the Aquatic Center for evening events such as weddings, parties, etc., that would at the same time allow liquor to be served. We have had a number of requests from residents that were interested in holding these events, but the no liquor policy was deemed a deterrent. Attached as Attachment B is a document from the City of Coral Gables, which they use for evening rental of the Venetian pool for these type of events. Some of the key requirements for these rentals are as follows. Number 1, events would only be held after hours when the pool is closed. Number 2, if liquor would be served, the renter would provide a special liquor insurance policy, naming the city as additional insured. And number 3, events where liquor is served will require hiring of an off-duty officer. Omar Luna, Recreation Director, and Caitlin Smith, Aquatic Supervisor, have prepared a proposed rental rules and regulations form, which is Attachment A in your packet, which includes a proposed fee structure. This is a preliminary draft, and if council approves this activity, the city attorney will review it before becoming final. Staff recommends approval since this will be an additional revenue source for that the city can earn from the facility. If approved, staff will bring to council a revised recreation fee schedule and the final rules and regulations document at the next council meeting. And Omar's here in case you have any specific questions on this.
I would like to say something, that the Venetian pool at Coral Gables is rented as, for high-class events, nice weddings, receptions, and parties, and our aquatic center, in the evenings, we're not generating any revenue from it. I think going by the guidelines that the Venetian pool uses would not cause any kind of disturbance for our residents in the area because they don't allow amplified music. You can have acoustical music, but amplification's not allowed. Also, the events have to end by 10 p.m., which I think is reasonable. And I got the idea after I went to the police appreciation dinner at the aquatic center, which I thought was just lovely. And we had a social gathering outside, around the pool and the cabana, and it was just a beautiful event. It didn't cause a disturbance for anyone in the neighborhood that I'm aware of. And it just seems like a great way for us to bring in additional revenues from our aquatic center.
Councilwoman, one other thing that you left out is the fact that they're not going to be able to use the pool while these parties are going on.
This is all after hours and in the winter.
Right.
In
But
the
they're not going
winter.
to be able to go into the pool, is what I'm saying.
No,
While the
no,
party's
no,
going with
right,
the
exactly,
liquor, I think
exactly.
you left that out.
Space.
Right.
Now,
Just
the
the
only
space.
concern that I have about this is that we are creating more competition for the golf and for the CMI. We're creating more competition for them. Now, one of them pays rent. The other one, we subsidize it by what, $34,000? How much are we giving?
$35,000.
$35,000. You create competition here now. Maybe they'll be losing revenue. Hold on, I know what
Yeah.
you're gonna say. I can see after we spoke what.
Okay.
I can figure it out.
Okay.
So this, the golf course might come back to us and say, hey, listen, the rent might be too high. Can you help us out with that? Because I foresee that. And the CMI might come back later on and say, next year during the budget process, and say, you know what, you guys created competition over here. Now our revenues are a lot lower. We don't need 35,000 now. We need 44,000. We need 50,000 because you created competition for us. That is my concern. Obviously, the folks are not here. They don't seem to think that's competition. That's what you're about to tell me, correct?
Well, what I'm going to say after we talked about it, I talked to both of them, and they both feel that the type of clientele that's going to rent that aquatic center is not the type of clientele that's going to contract the mansion or the country club. So they don't feel it's an issue for them.
Right. Well, next year, I don't want to see them here asking for money because we created a competition over here with the aquatic center.
Councilman, I have a suggestion for that. We could do this as a pilot project for this winter because the Venetian pool, I believe, is only available for rentals in the evening. And correct me, William, if I'm wrong, but I think from October to
Right.
March or April, and it's when, the summer hours aren't in place. So we could do it as a pilot project, allow the rental for a year and see how it works and readjust.
All right, so we're going to go, the proposal is to allow this, and we're going to do it from October, you said?
Is that, what is
was the dates?
Yeah,
What was the
Omar,
months?
what were the dates at?
We have it from basically from Labor Day all the way to Memorial Day.
Labor
So
to
basically
Memorial
for the
Day,
winter
yeah.
hours.
Labor Day to Memorial Day.
Correct.
So you're starting in September then?
Well,
Finish
September to
upon
May.
approval, or we could push it back if we have to.
I think we could adjust it to
proposals.
whatever our pool
Correct.
hours, when our pool hours for
When
the
does the
summer.
pool hours,
Labor Day.
Labor Day?
Labor Day is when we start to consider moving it, doing the time frame, et cetera. But we kind of push it back sometimes to about October, give or take.
Okay, I think that since she suggested it be a pilot program, I would go more for the October.
Right.
October start.
Okay.
October start to when that's the time change comes to,
To June,
right?
to 1
Not
June.
to June.
To
Well, Memorial Day's
Well,
No,
1 June.
maybe till
Memorial
April.
Day is April or.
Memorial Day's May.
End of May.
May.
That's what
So
I say,
let's
1
go-
June.
Let's go from. I'll propose to go from October to the month of April,
Okay.
and let's do
Through
it-
April.
Huh?
Through April.
Yeah, the
And-
month of
right,
April.
yes, okay, right. No, that sounds great.
And
Yeah.
and we'll try it.
Let's give it a shot. I think it
But
offers an
I-
alternative.
There's one concern I have about this. I think it's a good. It might be a good idea, but it's worth a try. One concern I have is that we got to make sure that none of this stuff gets carried over into the pool. Do we have any barrier there that isn't there? There's no barrier.
There's not a barrier. We'll have staff on site.
Well, maybe we can use on them events, maybe we can get some of the barriers that we have from the city.
We could.
And-
They're heavy and they
I think-
require a lot of work, but
That would look
maybe
ugly.
we can get.
That would look ugly.
Yes, that would detract
Wait a
from
minute,
the.
wait a minute, girls. You don't even think.
You could rope it
Come
off.
on.
Excuse
you
me.
You could cover them with some decorative paper and everything and make it look nice. Come on. They do it every
I
day. You
didn't-
think
Crepe paper.
you think them beautiful chairs you sit at banquet halls are beautiful chairs with the
Oh my
white
gosh.
stuff put over it? They're an old chair like this with the beautiful white cape on them. It's the truth.
Bad chair.
It's the
It's very
truth.
comfortable.
These are good.
Anyway, I would think about maybe even if we have to buy something, maybe think about buying something where you would want to put a barrier.
Yeah, to cordon it
Because I
off.
don't believe that. I don't want anybody to slip through there and get into the pool. That's
Well,
my main concern about this whole situation.
myself and Kaylin, we sat down and we looked at it various angles as far as we sat down if we were potentially people renting the facility for a wedding, how would we consider things, what space we're looking at. And one of the things we were worried about was that how do we control access
to the pool,
basically to the pool or not. So we were figuring, well, we have off-duty officers that are going to be on site regardless. That's
Right.
one. Number
the
two, we were going to
insurance.
put guards or staff, just sit them right there.
Okay.
Basically, because we understand the safety where if someone is had a little bit too much to drink and they decide to walk on the pool deck and
Right.
take a dive, we might have a problem. We're also not going to allow them to use the restrooms that are on the pool deck. At least that's one of the things we're going to try to push for. It's just restrooms in the multi-purpose room. So there's no need for them to be anywhere near the pool deck except if they're having a cocktail hour or something like that where they're using the pool deck for a little bit. And then we're hoping that we can strategize enough where we won't need a barrier. But your concern is we were really concerned about that also.
Omar, but I think part of the draw would be to be able to use the cabanas at night. That's a very
It could be.
nice, without music, no, just it's a nice place to sit, and the cabanas
And-
are lovely, and I think that would be part of the draw, and give us the ability to increase the rental fee.
We're not opposed to that. Again, this is just a discussion, but we were thinking of cutting it right where basically you start to get into that threshold of where the aquatic facility is. We are very concerned with that. It becomes a nightmare for us as far as security is concerned if we start letting people on that pool deck with drinks and carrying on and things like
Kids.
that. But again, if it's something you guys are open for, that's fine. We will have to adjust, but there will be an additional cost for that for staff. I
Could
can
we
guarantee you
just
because
do
the
this-
Need a lifeguard?
safety. Well, probably not on the pool deck, but our guards are the ones that work the pool, so they'll be there anyway.
But I think that cost can be passed on to the renter. I think all
You're-
those costs, including the insurance for the alcohol and all these, would be
Yeah.
costs that we pass on to the renter. It's a pilot project, and see, additional staffing and
that is-
anything like
that is
that would be
accurate. You're
part of the
right.
rental fee.
You're right.
And if it's a pilot project, we'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, then we'll discontinue it.
I have no problem with that.
Why don't we go just nice and let's try the first month of just renting the hall out and see how that works as far as the pool and everything like that. And then when they might feel more comfortable in going into cabanas and then go into the cabanas, like gradually work our way, have our first setup to
I
go,
don't think you can attract people if you
The
you have
trick,
to offer
Mayor,
a
to be
whole
honest with you,
project.
is for
And word of
example,
mouth,
if you
too.
need an area where if you have a wedding outside where they come for the cocktail hour and then they walk into where the
Right.
reception is. So that's kind of where we looked at it from different angles, where we were like, okay, they could use that area where the pool deck is right there.
Right.
Kind of where we did for the
Right.
police dinner.
Where
We
the
have some high
walk-in is.
tables, we could show them how it looks. And we thought that would be a good place for when they first get there and then they could walk in after. So it's almost where
Well, I was including that in the
Correct.
situation.
Okay.
My concern is the cabanas are right there at the pool deck.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm right there where you can walk into the pool. I don't know. Hey, it's up to council. If
Omar,
they
how many
wanna do the
requi-
whole thing?
How many requests have you had for this?
about anywhere between 5 to 6.
Okay.
And we've had 2 that we've hosted that didn't have alcohol
Mhm.
or anything. They weren't interested in that. They just wanted the space, so we made it work. But
Shoot.
we've had other concerns, questions about it, but we didn't. When we tell them we can't allow alcohol or et cetera, then it kind of like
So you think this is something that you and staff it's
Walter?
viable, in other words.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think so.
Omar, have they told you why they wouldn't want to go to the golf course or maybe the CMI?
we
They
don't
want to do it there. Why would that be?
I have no idea.
They won't. They
I yeah.
They didn't
I
share
couldn't
that
tell you.
information.
They call and they ask for the space and what
Gotcha.
it's for, and they ask the question,
make
can they
your
have
motion.
liquor? We tell them no. They're like,
Gotcha.
I'd like
Move
to
on.
make a motion that we allow the aquatic center to be rented in the evenings after hours with the stipulations we've added, including no amplified music, and that it's a pilot project from October through April of this year. And I'd like to include the use of the cabanas with the charges for whatever additional staffing you need to be passed on to the renter to be included as part of the renting. But I think that that's the big draw in the evening.
I'll second that.
Second?
Yes, sir.
Further discussion? Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapata.
Yes.
Councilman Petrolano.
Yes.
Mayor Bay.
Yes. All right, we
Good
go
job,
on
Omar.
to.
Have a
Good luck, Omar.
Thank you, Omar.
Maria Mitchell's going to be there as part of the staff to watch what was
that's it.
going on.
Yeah.
You
That's
missed
right.
the luau
She's
on
good.
Saturday. It was
I
fantastic.
was
Luau.
stuck in the ocean.
I was stuck in the ocean.
Literally got stuck in the ocean.
You ran out of
Okay,
fuel?
Parks and where we at? Consider the Board of Park and Parkways consideration for nominees for Yard of the Month for September, October, and November. Do I get a motion?
Motion to move.
Call the vote.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapata.
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda.
Yes.
Mayor Bay.
Yes. Now we go to a request from Councilwoman Mitchell, lower speed limit on Royal Point Sienna between East Drive and Lejeune Road.
Yes,
So you're
Mayor
going to
Council.
talk to it now too if you stay. You stayed
Yes,
so long.
you stayed.
I'm not as bad as I look.
Attached is an email request from Councilwoman Mitchell requesting council discussion on lowering the speed limit on South Royal Poinciana between East Drive and Lejeune from the current 35 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour in order to try and reduce speeding in the area. Since this is a county road, this type of change has to be approved by the county traffic department. If council is in agreement with this change, staff would begin communications with the county to inquire if they would approve this change and what the process would be. I know that Tom has already talked to the traffic engineers, and they were out there. And what they're doing, and I think they were installed today, they're doing a traffic count out there now to see the amount of cars and the speeding that's going on there. And that's going to take a couple of weeks. Based on that analysis, then they'll tell us, yes, you can, no, you can't. And we just want direction from council if we're able to do it, if that's something that council would approve.
I think that those would be consistent with the speed limits throughout Miami Springs. We don't allow 35 miles an hour in any of the other residential areas. So, and you know, people always tend to speed a little more. So when you're at 35, they start going 45.
How do you know that? Do you do
The
that?
chief
So
told
do
me.
we need a
that?
motion?
The chief has
Do you do
told
that
me.
too?
Do we need a motion?
She seems to know all the quirks, doesn't she?
Motion
Make a
to approve
motion.
11A.
Okay, you got a motion? Give me a second.
You got a second.
Call a vote.
Vice Mayor Best.
Aye.
Councilwoman Mitchell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Zapata.
Yes.
Councilman Petrolanda.
Yes.
Mayor Bay.
Yes, we go to.
For discussion, Bill, before we move on,
Go
if I might, sir.
You're out of Robert's. You know, you went out of the.
No, I did not. I did.
you should
Well,
have-
okay, I should have done it before that.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
okay.
right.
voted
Okay,
already.
before we go on, it's an accolade more than anything else. We have a couple folks in chambers tonight who proposed, who had a discussion, who I had a discussion with some months ago relative to that section of land that we just voted on between East Drive and Lejeune. And the question was posed to me at the time, and I thought about it. I said, they go, why was that portion of Poinciana 4 lanes and everything else is 2? And why is the speed limit higher than it is everywhere else? So I would like to go even a step further and say let's be possibly looking at doing something down the middle of that and even further than where you're going with this. But I like what you said. I like you.
Councilman Best, in response to Diane Burkhardt, who happens to be here in the audience, she had a letter in the Gazette maybe a month or so ago,
Yep.
where you,
Yeah.
220,
End of June.
where she brought up several issues and her concerns with, that whole area. And I contacted her after I saw that letter and met with her, and she showed me that, what she had shown you. After that, I asked for a meeting with Commissioner Sosa to discuss several issues, and that was one of the issues that I discussed because my understanding was Commissioner Sosa was aware of this in the past, and they had kind of looked at it, and it had they had even done some studies and brought up some possible costs for the medians, and then it was just dropped. So Commissioner Sosa said she would relook at the issue and the concerns, with no promises, of course. But she did mention that in a lot of areas of the county, what they're looking at is widening roads instead of narrowing them. That said, she said she would send a photographer to look at the road, and she agreed that the pedestrian crossings were an issue, that we need to beautify the area, and a whole bunch of other issues. So it's a possibility that, these issues that I know you brought up to the manager can still be addressed. I think that whole area needs beautification, traffic calming, and a whole bunch of other areas.
I
mean, a whole bunch of other
I thank you for I thank you for
improvements.
I thank you for bringing the issue to the dais tonight, and I thank the Burkharts for their thought process going forward on this, and hopefully we get.
Now you can go home. Go to sleep. All right, we have one more here, 11B. Request by Councilwoman mentioned alternative site to Stafford Park for the senior center.
Yes,
People to
Councilwoman
speak on this.
Councilwoman Mitchell has requested that council discuss the possibility of constructing the new senior center in a parcel of land located on the southernmost end of Stafford Park, as shown on the attached aerial maps. As council is aware, Stafford Park is the property of the Miami-Dade School Board, and the city has a 10-year lease for the use of the property for recreational purposes. Council will need to direct staff to initiate contacts with the school board and inquire as to the possibility of using that parcel for the senior center, as well as granting the city a long-term lease, 30 to 50 years, for the use of that property, since the GOB funding from the county also requires that any project funded with GOB funds be maintained by the city for a minimum of 25 years. We would also need to reach out to the county for their approval of this site under a lease agreement if granted. Another consideration is that staff has already advertised an RFP for a design-build contractor to develop plans at the current senior center site, as approved by council at a prior meeting with a unanimous 5-0 vote. The city has already spent approximately $20,000 with Lifespan in helping us with the design and RFP preparation based on the current site, as well as significant staff time and council meetings, which led to the unanimous decision by the prior council to build at the current site, which became the most popular alternative from numerous sites evaluated. At this time, we don't know how long it would take to get a final decision from the school board as to this option, causing possible delays in the commencement of this project. And just as a further note to the RFP process, I know Tammy's got the pre-bid conference is tomorrow with a site visit for all the contractors that are planning to bid on the project.
Okay, and I would just like to add that my only thought with bringing this up is to discuss this with the council as a possibility. As you know, as my understanding is, we had two sites that we really looked at that were both on city-owned property, the golf course area near the golf course, which nobody really wanted that, and the existing site. And at one of the meetings that I sat on before I was elected, we had the consultants come up and propose possible ways to use the existing site for the new senior center. None of them looked that great. They were just working within the confines of the space that was allowed. I think if we're going to build a new senior center, it's incumbent upon us to be able to provide everything that senior center should be for our community. So I've been looking at other properties, just keeping my eye out, thinking there must be some other potential. All I'm asking here is, the only thing that I'm asking, it's not that I feel that this is the site that the senior center should be built at. I'm just asking for this council to allow our city manager to speak with Miami-Dade Public School Systems and explore the possibility of us leasing that property for 30 to 50 years. If that's a possibility, then we could consider whether that would be a suitable site for the senior center between that and the existing facility. I did speak last week with Anna Rio Condi, who is the in charge of the leasing and acquisitions, and that's who we have the contract with for Stafford Park. just to ask if this was a possibility for us to lease it. She said she's open to collaboration at all times, that she would need our city manager to contact her so that they could discuss it further. So all I'm asking here, and again, I'm not proposing that that's the site for the senior center. I'm asking for the council to allow our city manager to explore the possibility of leasing that additional land. We're already leasing the land adjacent to it, the Stafford Park. That vacant land behind the attendance office, just, what is that, south of Stafford Park?
Yeah, LeBaron
Southeast.
Drive.
Yes, has been empty for, forever. So it's unused land, unused for the school system and unused for us. It just sits there. It's very unsightly.
I have two people want to speak on this. George Loeb.
Hello, Council. George Loeb, 860 Plover. I just want to bring up three things. I was around when we tried negotiating the last lease deal, and it was like pulling teeth from the school board. That's one thing. If you're even gonna consider something like that, you'd have to consider it 50+ years, because you're gonna build a multi-million-dollar building on something that can be theoretically taken away from you. You got to consider that. This city doesn't build a lot of multi-million-dollar things. If we do, the funds are hard to get by anyway. So we got to make sure that if we're going to spend that kind of money, it's going to be on something that we can renew at some point. The other thing, when this whole thing was discussed previously, by the way, it was more than two places originally discussed. It was just two places at the end that was put to vote. After all the discussions, I did talk to Karen Ross, and she stated to me, and I don't know how many people during that time spoke to the seniors. Very few seniors wanted it moved. So you got to consider their wishes also. I, at some point, hope to use the center. Although I was for looking at doing it on the golf course. I had my reservations for that also. Ultimately, I think for what they want to leave it where it's at. Mm-hmm. So please consider that. A multi-million dollars on a multi-million-dollar building on a property that we don't own, I don't think that's proper use of our residents' money. Thank you.
John? Thank you.
Sat there so long my foot fell asleep. No football tonight, thank goodness. John Souter again, thank you all. It was August of last year when this last came up, and I remember it well. There were 5 sites originally, and the magically discovered just today 6th site, which was the one along the fairway. I hope we're not getting ready to have another surreal, devolutionary conversation about where the senior center is going to be located. I like your choice of location. Failing the councilman's objections, which I think are pretty well founded. Between that and the beautification from Ms. Burkhart, those suggestions, it's a couple of things tonight that could go a long way to the betterment of the east side, which is terribly neglected, and there's a lot of disenfranchised people over there. That's really it.
Thank you.
I'd like to say something.
Thank
and
you
then
all.
we wait for a motion. So, my biggest concern, I want the seniors to have what they want and what they deserve. And I've spoken to a lot of them, and they're not opposed for the most part to stay where they are. I think the majority, the large majority, 90 whatever %, are fine with it. I think that we have something in process already. And to hold that back right now, I mean, I had someone at the senior center tell me the other day, are they going to build it before I die? And I was like, you know, that broke my heart. They really want a new senior center that has, you know, appropriate facilities for them. It is not appropriate what they have right now. So I'm not for something that's going to hold all these efforts that have already been made and time spent by the city back. Well, I'm not opposed to that location or any other location. It's just I'm concerned about how long it's going to take and the ball's going to be dropped and the money we already invested. So I just think it's going to be detrimental to the seniors to go that route right now.
For all that's been said, and I could only agree with most of everything I've just heard on this issue, I will give Councilman Mitchell credit for looking into this. I don't think it is the right way to go, but I think there's a silver lining in her request here tonight, and I think that is to ask the manager to open the doors again in terms of negotiations with the public school system relative to that piece of property, if anything has changed over the years, because we haven't really had an update on that for a while. I don't know if most folks are aware of that. We've really had no in-depth discussions with the school board relative to this piece of property in some years. So I think it would be healthy for that to occur, if nothing else.
3 years, Bob.
Well, that's a fair amount of time,
Because
Councilman.
the last time we spoke to them was regarding the historical society.
That's correct. With that going over there,
And
right.
they only gave us a 10-year, and
Right.
on top of that, it took forever.
So I would support what she's asking here, relative for William to move forward on that. But as far as to move the senior center or even consider moving the senior center from what we've already agreed to and have spent 20 grand to date on, I could not support that. But
You have anything, Councilman? I just want to say a couple things so there's a little history. Number one, the people came here and the senior center, the issue was very contentious for a long time. And council came to a decision 5-0 to do it that way. And it was pretty popular to keep it where it's at. The other thing is that according to our experts, was it 9,000 square feet going to be? How many? 9,000?
85, 9,000.
Almost 10,000 square feet, which would give the seniors all the facilities from the experts that they would get there. You had the opportunity to come up and speak on this while we were doing it and give this option to the council before. And I don't understand. You were at the meeting. If this kind of thing was in your idea to do it, it could have been a proposal. There were 6 sites, not 5, 6. That would have been 7.
Right.
And we bantered it around and came up with this because the biggest picture of the history is that would the site where the senior center now was going to be big enough. And they figured out with the square footage, parking, that it would work. And whatever you saw that night as far as what it would look like, that just was an ideal of what it would look like. We're going to have a design build company come in and do it. And then I think it falls into the most important part is it falls into the theme of the whole pool, community center, and the senior center all within one, where the seniors have the opportunity to go to the pool, which they use, and do everything like that.
Right.
So that's what I have to say about it, and I'll entertain a motion if we need a motion.
I'd just like to say, again, as I said at the beginning, it's not that I feel that that is the best site for the senior center. It has to be. I wanted to explore it. However, this is the only way that we can discuss things as the council. As you know, it has to be here. So I'm bringing it up here for discussion, and that's all.
Okay.
Okay, so, and the reason that it didn't come up before is because I hadn't identified it before.
Okay.
I wasn't on the council and I hadn't identified it. So let's not get too,
Well,
upset about this. Again, this is
it-
just for
there's a lot
discussion.
of-
I brought
there's
it up
lot
as a
of
way
things-
for
there's a
us to
lot of
discuss
things
this.
There's a lot of things to, one of the most important things is that that's just no different than when people discuss about putting a skateboard park there. That was my place to put the skateboard park for the community. And, sometimes you make things like this and you get shot down, and that's how life is. That's how it goes. But it was within the discussion at the time of timing of doing it. And plus, anyway, I'll entertain a motion.
So let's,
I'll
I
entertain a
have,
motion.
I
don't wanna
have no
get,
problem.
too
This was
upset.
just for discussion, and I wanted to discuss it with the council. Like I said, this is the only way that we can discuss something together is at these meetings.
Okay.
So I brought it up as a possibility to explore it.
Right.
It's not, if I agree with everything you've brought up, that those are issues that, are very pertinent issues. Councilman Best, you brought up of exploring that. I think that can be done separate from the senior center just down the road. If we want to explore leasing that land for something else. But right now, I don't think we have any other purpose for it, so I don't think that that's even a need.
And that
to-
land falls under the 10-year lease that we have now, so
Yeah.
we could literally use it for any other, like you wanted to put the
Right.
skate park at one time.
Yeah.
Okay.
It can be used for anything else.
Yeah, we do lease it right now.
Recreational.
We do lease that land.
Yes.
That's part of the whole
That's
thing.
part of the Stafford
It's
Park,
not like
yes.
it has, it is part of the whole thing. All right, we got do we need a motion? A motion to,
I don't know what you're.
There's no motion. I mean, I'm not putting forward a motion.
no
because
motion?
Again, I was just
So
discussing
it's
this.
clear the senior center goes where it's proposed.
I just want to say one thing. I want to thank Maria for the time she devoted in terms of looking into this. She devoted a lot of time, and she was thinking about the seniors, I'm sure. I was here when all the seniors came out and when the other plan was introduced, and it was very sort of contentious, and they were very, so I know that it's okay for them to be where they're at, and they'll be okay with that. And Karen knows best because she's with them every day, right? So.
Okie dokie, where are we at here? We're at the city council. We have the city attorney. Anything from you?
No, Mayor and Council, I look forward to seeing you all, or almost all of you, at the Florida League of Cities Conference starting Thursday.
Yes, sir.
We have city manager. How about you?
Just a couple of quick reminders. August 15th, we have the Community Shred Day at 4 p.m. from 4 to 7 at the Rec Center. August 16th, remember we have Coffee with a Cop, meet and greet at Starbucks at 9:30 a.m. August 16th, we have the monthly visit also from Representative Congressman Diaz-Balart's office here in City Hall. And of course, next Monday is our second workshop at 6 p.m. And that's all I have.
Anything from the assistant city manager? Bobby? Councilman Best, your
Yeah,
turn.
Real quick, I was very pleased to see the minutes posted from all of the board meetings, which seem to be cranking up here again, and I think that's pretty healthy for the city, and I'm glad to see that's moving again in the right direction. Obviously, nothing of any. Anything of any major note came out of anything I saw so far. I will admit that. However, it's got to start somewhere, and we do have a lot of new members that have jumped on these boards. And I think there was only one that was short of a quorum. Am I right, Erica, on that
Yeah,
one?
the recreation.
Recreation was the only one. So at least these folks.
Golf board too, right?
It's on schedule.
It's on schedule.
Oh, I thought
It
the
doesn't
golf
hasn't.
board met
Couple
yet.
haven't happened yet, but
That's coming up this week.
coming up, yeah. But I just wanted to mention that and let folks know that those boards are starting to meet again, and hopefully some good ideas will move our way from it. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman Mitchell?
I wanted to state that I had met with Commissioner Sosa a few weeks ago, and regarding the tourist bed tax, which is a very near and dear issue to me, that the hotels here are collecting tourist bed tax, and wanting to make sure that we somehow, the city of Miami Springs, gets some benefit from that. The tourist bed tax that are collected from the hotels are to promote tourism in our community, in Miami-Dade, and it goes to a lot of cities. So the commissioner set up a meeting with the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, the executive director, Bill Talbot, and the assistant vice president, Rolando Aedo. And they visited Miami Springs at my request. Last Thursday morning, I asked William and Tammy accompanied me. We gave them a tour of Miami Springs, of the business district, of our residential areas. We went to the golf course and to the Curtis Mansion. And they're going to, it was really an exciting meeting, I thought. Very, very, very productive. They were very enthusiastic, very generous of their time and professionalism. And they're going to help us promote Miami Springs so that we get more visitors to our business section, to our Curtis Mansion, to the golf course. And they moved very quickly because after our meeting, they set up a meeting at Curtis Mansion with Melinda to invite all the airport hotels to come to the Curtis Mansion for an event so that they can learn more about Miami Springs. And when somebody goes to the front desk and asks for information, that the hotels can promote our businesses and, you know, all these tourists to come visit our city. So we've got, I think we're going to be working with them a great deal, and I was just very happy about the outcome of all of that.
Good.
The other thing I just wanted to mention, I went to the Marlins game Friday night, the City Marlins game, and thank you for Erica and Bill and Robert and Anna who were there. And Sophia, who's
can't forget
adorable.
Sophia.
And that was a lot of fun. We really had a fun, even though we were a very small group. And the luau at the Aquatic Center on Saturday was just a really fun event, too. First time that I had attended it, and that was just fun to be in the pool and watch the authentic Polynesian show. It was great. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilwoman Zapata.
I just want to mention one thing because I've made promises I was going to mention it, and I mentioned it to William today and to our attorney, that the seniors had requested that when they are on the agenda, something pertaining to them, that they would like to come to the city council meetings. And so the question of how would they get here, and my question was the Busy Bee line, or how much would that cost, whatever. I just introduced it and presented it because they really feel that no one really cares whether they're here or not, and I want to assure them that we do care, that when their issues are discussed, that we do welcome them here. So we need to think outside of the box and maybe see how we get them here. Maybe our previous mayor has a golf cart transportation thing. Maybe he can bring them. I don't know. Something like that might be good. But just throwing it out there.
Maybe we could schedule a meeting earlier, like a 5 o'clock meeting where it's, you know, because
Or-
some of them might be sleeping by now.
Yeah, right.
You'd be surprised.
A lot of people might be
Maybe
sleeping by
we
now,
could have-
not just seniors.
Maybe we can have a meeting over there at like, let's see, let's think
I don't know.
about.
William and Tammy talked about some of that going over there. You know, we were just sort of brainstorming this afternoon about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, have a meeting.
Possibly
Yeah.
like the meeting that they had at Curtis Mansion when there's something to really significant for the seniors that we could have our meeting
We'll try.
at the senior
We'll
center.
we'll just keep that in mind. Just don't let me
Great
forget.
idea.
You have anything else, young lady?
No, that's it.
All I have is looking forward to Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Okay.
And we'll have something to report next council meeting.
I have one thing, the manager and I, we had a real nice visit from Mount Sinai Hospital. They've offered different things that they can do for the seniors, and little health inspections and everything free of cost. And I know that, I think the manager's gonna also, as far as the people that are re-upping their insurance in the city, they're gonna do some, what do you call it, they screen them.
The
Some screening.
Yeah, the open enrollment.
Open
That's
enrollment.
they're already coming in
They're
for
all
that.
gonna be come in and they're gonna do that for free, and they're gonna be opening up a 24 24-bed ER over there on Palmetto, Mount Sinai ER, 24-bed. The neat thing that I thought was very significant that they brought up was, if you go to their ER, you get transported to their hospital. You don't have to be worrying about going to another hospital. They'll transport you to their hospital, so it's not like you go there and then you got to go other places.
Where's this gonna be?
On Palmetto, right over here?
What's the street
By
over there
Fairhaven?
by the U-Haul off the Palmetto?
Off the Palmetto Expressway. By
60th.
60th.
And they hope to have it. They hope to have it built by the summer of 2018. They were very nice people, very good, and they took my blood pressure, and I'd like them to take it now because you see what was going. I want to say that we had one of our businesses. What's the name of the Havana?
Havana.
You saw my statements in the paper. It was there was at least 150 people going in and out of there. The biggest opening I've ever seen. And you know, there's another one in business that maybe will come in here and help. It's funny how things work. Some people went in there to the business, and they're hungry, so they went down the street and ate, and then they came back. So, you know, that's how it works sometimes when you have something popular, like in the old days with Holloman's, Billy Seafood, and
the Hunter Lounge.
Hunter Lounge. You know, you
I caught
kind of
that.
you kind of spread out a little bit because of popularity. So, go ahead, sir.
When you finish, one more thing. I just wanted to, I don't know if you know, earlier in the meeting, I got up for a minute and talked to the chief outside. What happened, someone sent me information that there were two young men in a car driving around town, knocking on doors from a company called Florida Home Improvement.
Yeah.
And trying to sell people services and saying that they were being sponsored by the city.
Oh, okay.
So I know the chief got.
Before I came to the meeting, a guy approached me, but he didn't say he was from the city. We're sponsored by the city, but did you get him?
Yes. Told them, and we ran a check on them and asked them to.
Leave. Okay, then we did good tonight.
Yep.
Huh? We did good. All right, this meeting's adjourned.
Good job, Bill. Erica.
I'm trying to drive up there with